Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Bakugou Got a Second Chance? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Katsuki wakes with a start, fists clenched and teeth gnashed. Ready to attack the masked demon that happened to get one clean shot. He blinks, confused. His legs are tied up in black bedsheets. And he is smothered by the nostalgia of his childhood room in his parents' two-story house. What the hell? Katsuki kicks off the bedsheets and swings around the side of the bed. Why is he sleeping at his parents' house? He glances at the alarm clock on his bedside table. It reads, 6 a.m. What happened between the midnight drug bust and now? A new and highly addictive hallucinogen hit the streets of Mizuta for hard. Call off a spice. People looking for a quick escape from their taxing lives instead found an express ticket to their funerals. Fortunately, after months of investigation, Katsuki of the Genius Office along with members of the Riot Agency and several underground heroes had a lead on the secret location used to manufacture the drug. The team planned to invade and secure as many high-priority drug associates as possible during a covert mission masked in the night. The last thing Katsuki remembers is coming face-to-face with the drug kingpin himself and attacking his unusually lanky bodyguard who hid his face behind a red yaksha mask and slithered around the hero's blows like a snake. So, this is the number 3 hero, Dynamite, huh? The revered reputation I'm about to gain makes me almost want to thank you. Katsuki scowls. It was only one clean hit from the bastard's bodyguard, but, apparently, he was out of commission enough to be sent to his parents' house. His scowl deepens. Why not his perfectly equipped studio apartment? And did his parents not turn his bedroom into a home office the minute he officially moved out after he graduated from UE? He is sure his mother either sold off or trashed everything he left behind. With remembered ease, Katsuki trudges to the attached small bathroom to wash his face before demanding answers from his parents. But the shocked face staring at him through the mirror stops him in his tracks. Hands are a flurry over his body, touching the rounded cheeks that took years to disappear, the lack of splintered scars and haphazardly healed gashes, the fluffy hair where an undercut should be. Taking in the loss of height, muscle bulk, raw power. Everything is wrong. Oh God, no. Katsuki touches the mirror in dread, willing it to be some gimmick. No. How did one fucking hit revert him to his baby-faced, bratty, beanpole of a middle school body? No wonder Best Jeanist sent him to his parents' house. Hiding this shame of a result from a top pro hero is of uttermost necessity. And if any of his enemies learn of what he has been reduced to, he could be dead in mere moments. Katsuki curses, slamming a fist onto the sink countertop and letting the pain in his hand ground him. He breathes deeply. It is not the end of the world. It was one mistake, one bad judgment call in dodging an attack, made from accumulated months of no sleep and overtime shifts. He will fix this and beat that scrawny snake into the ground along with his arrogant drug boss. Out of nowhere, a hand grabs Katsuki's shoulder and roughly spins him around. What the hell is taking so long, brat? Didn't you hear me calling you? His mother asks, her eyes narrowing. Why aren't you dressed yet? You should have left for school already. Hurry up. Reflexively, Katsuki slaps the hand away, raising an eyebrows at his mother's unwarranted anger. Have you finally lost it, old hag? I might look like this, but I've been out of school for nearly 10 years. Mitsuki looks at him like he is crazy, her perfectly shaped eyebrows furrowing in incomprehension. Katsuki stares at his mother's off-looking body. He knows it has been a while since he last visited his parents, but he is sure there are wrinkles on her face, maybe a couple gray hairs. This woman looks not a day over 40. She promptly smacks him on the head. I don't have time for your pranks, you little shit. Get going. Now, a wrapped bento box and a brown school bag are shoved into Katsuki's hands before his mother stalks from the bathroom. An awful theory worms its way into Katsuki's mind, and he snubs it out. It was not possible. It is not possible. The ability to impossible. Deciding he needs to call his boss, Katsuki searches for his phone. Where the hell is the damn thing? Where the hell are any of his personal items? No keys, phone, wallet, sunglasses, his usual day backpack. Nothing. The persistent theory knocks on his mind once again, a little harder, and he blows it up. No, there is no way. In a frenzy, Katsuki dumps the contents of his school bag onto the floor. Class binders, textbooks, and writing utensils. Lip balm. His skull-themed handkerchief. An extra set of orange chopsticks. House keys to his parents' house. A card holder for his Aldra Junior High student ID, train pass, and emergency debit card. Well, that makes sense because he did not own a phone in middle school. Katsuki's heart drops painfully in his chest. Sweat drips from his palms dangerously, but his throat is devoid of even the tiniest bit of moisture. The mocking theory peels back the gates of his mind with ease. The masked demon did not rewind his physical body. He sent his consciousness back in time. Glancing around his room for the printed calendar he used to keep taped to his wall, he checks the first unmarked date after a series of crosses. A quirk that sends your mind 15 years into the past. Or this is all some elaborate mental prison to make him relive his hardships from the very beginning. How does he know he is really in the past? This could also be an incredibly slow flashback scene, and he is already dead. Katsuki flinches at the roar of his mother from downstairs. If you aren't walking out this door in 10 minutes, you won't like me if I have to come up there again. Fuck, he breathes out, barely a whisper. Katsuki tries to ignore his thundering heartbeat pulsing in his ears as he shoves his things back into his school bag. Quickly, he washes his face, brushes his teeth, swipes some deodorant, and changes into the Aldra uniform laying out on his desk chair. He slips out the front door of his parents' house with 2 minutes to spare from his mother's wrath, school bag and lunchbox in his arms. However, he walks in the complete opposite direction of the school. He needs help, and the only one who may believe his crazy story is his boss and mentor, Best Jeanist. There are only a few people Katsuki looks up to at the seasoned age of 29 years. All Might, Best Jeanist, and Miruko. Although he does not remember much of their first meetings, Best Jeanist has been instrumental in carving him into the hero he is today. Katsuki curses. Or the hero he will be in the future. The train hopping to Best Jeanist's agency is uneventful. He gets a couple of stares, but it is to be expected. He is a child in a school uniform obviously skipping. Katsuki squints up at the genius office, at the marble white building with long, green-tinted windows on all floors, before trudging through the front door. No matter the year, the style of the building is too much for Katsuki's tastes. Excuse me? Kid, you can't just walk upstairs. Katsuki's eyes flicker towards the receptionist rounding her desk setup, almost waddling in her too tight jeans. He rolls his eyes. She could not stop him even if she tried. Back off, I need to speak with Jeanist. What could be so important one forgets their manners? Best Jeanist asks, coming through the front door with a few sidekicks hurrying after him. Katsuki cannot stop the relief that washes over him at the sight of his mentor. Finally, he makes a gesture to himself. Me. I am so important. Best Jeanist chuckles, eyes crinkling. Are you now? Yes, genius. When you've been sent 15 fucking years back into your teeny bopper body, you'd be pretty high priority too. You're from the future? That's what I said, isn't it? Katsuki replies, a bite to his voice. Jeanist stopped trying to correct his speech years ago, accepting his harsh personality for what it is. However, maybe Katsuki should reel himself in just a bit with this younger version of his mentor. Who even remembers how the man reacted the first time they met? Best Jeanist is quiet for a moment before his eyes lose the light-hearted glint to them. He fixes his hair. Although reforming young aspiring heroes is what I do, I'm afraid I don't have time for a child's pranks right now. If you would so kindly, he nods to two of the extras behind him. Spick and Span hurriedly latch onto Katsuki's arms before he can weasel out of them. Of course, sir. We will remove him from the premises, Spick says before the two drag Katsuki towards the entrance. Katsuki bucks in their hold, kicking his legs to jerk from their tight grip. What the fuck? Stop it. I'm being serious. Jeanist. He falls onto his ass as the two sidekicks slam the front door in his face. "Listen to me," Katsuki shouts, gaining a few stares from the people walking around him. He goes to pull the door back open, but it is locked. Those fuckers. Damn it. If Best Jeanist will not listen to him, and he has no idea what the masked villain who did this to him even looks like, how is he going to get back to his time? Can he even get back to his time? What if the Kingpin burned or dismembered his prone body? Or he actually swapped places with his younger, unexperienced self and got himself killed? What if he just ceased to exist in his time? Katsuki has no idea how this quirk works, and the thought devours him from the inside. He is stranded in the past. Only when a passing cloud dims his light does Katsuki realize he has been staring at the glass doors like an idiot. He stoops to pick up his fallen school bag and lunchbox. What else could he do but return empty-handed to his parents' house? The slap to his cheek makes a resounding impact. His mother is furious. The irate scowl on her face could rival the cruelest devil. "I must be dreaming. Because why else would I get a call from your school, saying you never showed up for classes today?" Katsuki stares pointedly at the ground, bottling up his own growing frustration. One punch cost him his pro-hero life. His mentor thinks he is a joke. And his mother is more of a raging bitch in the past. He takes a deep breath. The last thing he needs is to blow up on his own mother. She is just worried and disappointed in his seemingly bad choices today. Mitsuki grabs his face, manicured nails digging into his rounded cheeks as she talks down to him. Talks down to her 29-year-old son. "Look at me when I'm talking to you. What bullshit went through your head to think it was a good idea to skip school?" Katsuki finally meets her eyes, mouth set in a tight frown, and pulls her hand off his face. "Calm down, Nick. I fucked up and I'm sorry. My head's been weird today. It won't happen again." He could tell her. He could tell his father too. But he doubts he will get a different response from Best Jeanists. They will think he is crazy. And he honestly might be. His mother glares down at him, something he has to get used to again, trying to pick apart his very being. But it is nearly impossible with his trained poker face. A frown tugs at her lips. "Do we need to see the doctor?" "No," Katsuki snaps, immediately. "I don't know. It won't happen again." She stares at him for a moment longer, her rage subsiding, and gently presses the back of her hand to his forehead. "Go lie down. You have a bit of a hot head." Katsuki shrugs. Any way to escape this blatant massacre of his independence. He heads for the stairs. "Oh, and you're grounded. To and from school only. You hear me? You're on chore duties for 3 months. I'm going to call your father." He was worried sick. Katsuki crashes on his bed, staring up at the ceiling. Let us review the facts. 1. He is stuck in his 14-year-old body. 2. He has no means of returning to his time. And 3. He has been grounded for the first time in over 20 years. He breathes a shuddering breath. His options are limited. On one hand, he could continue to visit the few people he trusts in the future, trying to get someone to listen to him and help him search for, essentially, a ghost to return to his time. On the other hand, he can relive the next 15 years to get back to his time. Both options suck. He could continue to look for the masked demon, but in doing so, is he affecting his younger self's education and development? Can he even find the villain or to be villain in the first place? Is the villain even living a life of crime 15 years earlier? He could relive his life, but in doing so, he is a man out of time. Alone. Slowly crawling through the years to return to his life. As the natural light seeping through his window dims, the decision makes itself apparent. Katsuki rubs the palms of his hands into his eyes. A fleeting thought of setting off his quirk flits through his mind. He gets up and seats himself at his desk, pulling out a blank notebook and a pen. The best thing he could do is write down everything he remembers happening in the next 15 years, no matter how big or small. This notebook will be his golden ticket. His constant reminder that he is not crazy. The next thing will be to overturn this room to get a complete picture of what his younger self was like. And probably review what he has learned so far in school. It is going to be a long night. Good thing he does not sleep anymore. "All this work isn't good for you, bro." A concerned hand on his shoulder. "You push yourself too much. What do you expect from me?" His own voice. It is not a question, and he does not want an answer. The conversation fades into the darkness. Katsuki, don't just ignore us. The voice sounds frustrated. Everyone needs a break. I take breaks, but the concern recedes once again. One day, you're going to need us, and we won't be there to pull you back. Katsuki opens his eyes. It always frustrates him when Aijuru is right, even in his dreams. He blinks the remnants of the blurry dream from his mind, taking in his surroundings. He must have dozed off for a couple hours. 3:47 a.m., the clock reads. He is on the floor, surrounded by textbooks and his own meticulously written notes. He stands, stretching out the hunch in his back from countless hours of future event recording, self-investigating, and class cramming. Mainly, class cramming. At least his academic ability has not taken a hit with age. The house is silent. Not a soul rising for the day. Then he can keep the mornings to himself. Have some semblance of being home in his apartment. He goes on his usual 6-mile run, followed by 30 minutes of cool down and stretching. His lungs are on fire by the end of the run, and his body is not used to stretching this far. Ignoring the aches of his new old body, he gets ready, prepares his breakfast and lunch, and completes some of the chores his mother gave him. He leaves for school before his parents leave their bedroom. Walking to Aldra, he recalls his findings on his younger self from last night. He combed through his whole bedroom, leaving no inch unturned. First, his younger self is very organized. From his eating habits to his school notes to his personal quirk training, everything is thoroughly documented and easy to understand. Now, Katsuki is still an organized person, but there is only so much you can do when you are multitasking different missions and patrols, public relations events, and inter- and intra-agency meetings. Something has to give. Second, his younger self is adamant about cleanliness and hygiene. He still is, so no surprise there. Actually, Katsuki still uses some of the same personal hygiene products as his younger self, only updating to ones that better suited his age. He is not going to look like some crusty, musty extra. Third, his younger self is not as good at hiding his all-might obsession as he seems to think. The well-played with action figures, the painstakingly preserved limited edition posters, and the folded baby blanket all shoved into the back of his closet says enough. Lastly, his younger self does not seem to have a life outside of school and personal training. Katsuki swears he had at least a couple of friends. Yet, it looks like he stopped playing with other children sometime in elementary school. Although, in the future, the only ones who can put up with his sorry ass are Kami, Aijuru, Izuku, and Shudo, he still has friends. Will have. Finally reaching the school, Katsuki is almost surprised it is open this early. Probably due to morning sports practices. He finds his homeroom with some difficulty, but that is not the worst of it. Which one of these damn chairs is his assigned seat? All those thorough school notes, and his younger self just expects him to know which seat is his. Huffing, Katsuki chooses a seat at random. He will move later if it is a problem. As he flips through the last of his notes that he dozed over, the classroom door quietly slides open and closed. Katsuki does not look up, and whoever it is does not address him. Light footsteps fumble at the door before trudging deeper into the class. Kaken? Katsuki stills. Even at a higher pitch and cracked, he knows that annoying voice anywhere. Are you okay? Katsuki turns around in his seat, finally taking in the younger version of his friend. Scrawny. Even worse than him. Unscarred. Insecure. His eyes narrow, a frown tugging on his lips. Aizu, Midoriya is also wrong. What did he expect? Midoriya's eyes bulge, and he waves his hands comically. Not that you need help or anything. But you missed class yesterday for the first time. And, you're sitting in the wrong seat. Katsuki is quiet for a second. Which seat is mine? Midoriya blinks and belatedly points to the desk 2 seats in front of Katsuki. He sucks his teeth and moves his stuff to his actual seat. Thanks, he grumbles out. Thanks? Midoriya repeats, looking even more confused. Katsuki rolls his eyes. The boy is a walking ball of trembling nerves. But that is Katsuki's fault, right? He sighs and leans back in his chair, staring at the ceiling blankly. Katsuki did bully him ruthlessly, starting at the lively age of 4. It is something Izuku and he never talk about. They are a celebrated wonder duo, an unstoppable force in the face of evil. The symbol of hope and the symbol of victory who brought back the trust in heroes. The media loves to use. Izuku even has his own hero agency, Agency Deku, which he never fails to ask Katsuki to leave genius for. They hang out at each other's apartments, get drinks after hours, spar together, when they have a moment to breathe outside of work. Katsuki could not count how many times they trend on social media every month. His Izuku is the #1 hero. A veteran. A smug piece of shit. A pillar of unending support. An important rival. A brother. This Midoriya is foreign, unrecognizable. And the more he sits in this classroom, the more he remembers. What can a dweeb like you accomplish? You don't even have a fucking quirk, so where do you get off putting yourself on the same level as me? He's such a sad sack that, even now as a senior, he still can't face reality. If you want to be a hero so bad, there's actually a really good way. If you believe they're holding your quirk over in the next world, you should just dive off the rooftop and get it. The more he wonders how Izuku forgave him. He is the reason this boy is so scared to say what is on his mind. Katsuki's face scrunches in shame. The least he could do is stop bullying Midoriya. The timeline be damned. If he has to relive 15 years of his life, he is doing it his way. He just hopes his friends are there to greet him when he makes it out. The class fills up, and Katsuki's initial thought is correct. He did have friends, extra #1 and extra #2. The ones currently heckling him for being a hypocrite about skipping class. I just think it's funny that we can't do it without you being an ass, but you can. And what's up with your pants, dude? Your mom finally make you wear a belt. Thankfully, the teacher starts class before Katsuki has a dilemma over decking a child. However, a new one presents itself. The glaring reality that a 29-year-old pro hero is retaking middle school with a bunch of 14-year-old brats. A sudden weariness settles over his body. He reluctantly accepted the repeat studying, but this is a whole other frustrating pill to swallow. Is he sure he is alive? Because this looks like the first circle of hell to him. He takes a deep breath. Class is boring, especially so the second time around. Uneventful, except for one annoying detail. Every time a student answers a question wrong, the teacher calls on Katsuki to provide the correct answer. But does the guy have it out for him or something? Is this supposed to be flattering, thinking he will always know the right answer? Bastard. Fortunately, he manages to correctly answer each time, but a quarter of them are guesses. Katsuki is fluent in English, Hindi, and Mandarin Chinese due to his university time in India and China under Maruko and Genius mentorships. His mathematics knowledge is mainly finance and algebra, and his science knowledge is mostly chemistry. So, it is not that he is academically inept, but he also does not walk around with random history facts in his back pocket. He is lucky he reviewed Japanese history last night. On the bright side, nothing is worse than filing his taxes every year or writing damage reports for the agency's insurance company. Typically, a Japanese resident does not have to file their own taxes due to the dependable tax withholding system, but with the international work Katsuki does, he tends to have another employer in addition to the Genius office, and that makes him an exception. Every year. The bell rings. Before you go, don't forget to consider your future plans. You're all seniors now, the teacher points out, but a sly smile tugs at his face. But I bet you'll all be heroes. The class explodes into excited cheers and chatter. Katsuki raises an eyebrow, looking around. Most of these brats do not have what it takes to become heroes, and he is being lenient with that statement. Bakugou wants to go to Yui. Extra #1 boasts for some reason, and the class stares at Katsuki in awe. No shit, Sherlock. How cocky, someone exclaims. Doesn't Midoriya want to go to Yui too? Another student pipes up. The class quiets. And it only takes one snort for the silent dam to break into a sea of laughter. Midoriya? There is no way. If the only thing you can do is study, then heroics is a pipe dream. You can't be a quirkless hero. The boy in question fumbles out of his seat, trying to stand up for himself. There's no rule against it or anything. However, the class just laughs harder. A vein pops in Katsuki's right temple. He slams his fist on his desk, the loud sound canceling out the rest. The look in his eyes dared a soul to keep laughing. Satisfied, he glares at the teacher letting this shit drag on. Teacher, finish your announcement, so I can leave already. The teacher clears his throat. Ahem. As I was saying, I would like your future plan worksheets filled out and handed in by tomorrow. Katsuki leaves school, ignoring his younger self's friends as they follow behind him, conversing. He is not talking or even acknowledging their existences, so he does not understand why they still trail behind him. He just wants to go home by himself. Irritated, he punts a soda bottle down the street as he walks, mentally berating himself for not throwing it in the trash instead. A suffocating scent assaults his nose. Kids these days. Snatching the cigarette out of extra number 2's mouth, Katsuki explodes the offending object between his fingertips. He glares at the boy. Keep this up, and forget having a future? The boy laughs nervously. Dude, a bit much, don't you think? Katsuki does not budge. Those death sticks will ruin your body. Don't come crying to me when it happens. Katsuki's heart quickens. He stiffens. The sound of television static just barely tickles his ears. And a feeling of déjà vu douses him in cold water. The hairs on the back of Katsuki's neck stand up. Every warning signal in his body shooting off, screaming at him. Memories slip through a crack in the steel box haunting the back of his mind. It's today, isn't it? Katsuki's body dives to the side before his mind catches up to what he is escaping. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees it. Black sludge warps to form some attempt at a body. Yellow eyes with bloodshot pupils zero in on his figure. Katsuki shudders involuntarily, staying crouched and ready to dodge another attack. Nice, a new disguise, and one with a tasty quirk and good reflexes too. Katsuki anticipates the sludge lurching forward and dives to the side once again, staying in his alert and defensive stance. He refuses to get caught by this villain. Never again. Even if he is not powerful enough to stop it himself, he could easily avoid it. Yet, as he dodges, his ever-so all-knowing mind whispers a little secret. If the sludge villain incident is today, then he knows what else happens today as a result. He would have been happier never recalling this fact. Never hearing about it over drinks with Izuku. For, if he does not play damsel, succumbing to this villain's advances, how else will All Might recognize Midoriya as the rightful successor of One for All? If this really is the past, he could seriously alter the course of the future by not getting captured, by letting some passing hero save them instead, by not letting All Might make the correct decision, by forcing Midoriya to give up his only dream. And he would never subject someone else to the clutches of a villain. So he stops. His body slowly rises from his defensive stance. His eyes droop, losing the will to watch it happen, closing softly. And the sludge slams into him. His throat is burning. It is dark. Something black swirls in his vision, slowly meandering over his eyes. It almost has a lulling effect. So interesting to watch the blackness churn and twist. Breathe. An acrid smell dulls his senses. It is disgusting, smelling of sewage, but the only thing he can do is note its presence. Like annoying dust in the air, he can try to wave it away, but the smell just swoops and whirls around his being. Never leaving. Breathe. More annoying than the smell, it feels like a billion tiny needles are piercing his skin. An intense pressure behind each pinprick, threatening to break his skin. His bones. His organs. His whole being. But his throat. It is on fire. Boiling. It feels tight as if something were shoving its way down. But why is it burning? It is hard to think. His mind is almost too calm. Too still. Breathe, damn it. Light blinds his eyes as reality returns to Katsuki. The outside world is spinning and moving too fast for him to discern shapes. His entire body is covered in the black sludge as it tries to find purchase in his being. And he is suffocating, gagging on sludge covering his mouth. Immediately, he sets his quirk off, trying to struggle, move, writhe, anything. But he is losing. He is dying. He cannot think. There is too much pressure surrounding him. He thinks his brain will ooze from his ears, his organs bubble from his nose. Black spots dance in front of his eyes again, threatening to send him back to the calm place, threatening to submit his body to the sludge. Panicked, Katsuki tries to scream around the sludge smothering him, letting off the largest explosions he can muster. The booming blowback jostles his head, and his surroundings come into focus. He is surrounded by people. A ring of civilians, staring, filming, chatting as if this is a sideshow. Pro-heroes watching him struggle or saving injured people from the wreckage he caused. The media rolling the cameras and reporting as if he is an interesting spectacle. 1,000 eyes watching him at his weakest. What burns worse, he wonders. The humiliation or the sludge? Please, stop looking. Kaken. A yellow backpack pitifully smacks the sludge, its contents spilling onto the ground. Katsuki can only stare through blurry eyes. Midoriya is trying to claw him out. His mouth is moving a mile a minute, but Katsuki cannot hear him anymore. Is there sludge in his ears too? The vibrations of the villain's voice rack through his body as he roars, "Don't get in my way." A giant hand with the intent to kill is moments from crushing a scrawny child with snot and tears rolling down his face. Detroit smash. Katsuki comes to, dangling in the air, his arm crushed in All Might's tight grasp. He drops to the ground and stumbles on trembling legs over to the side of a building. And he promptly retches the sludge lodged into his stomach. His head is swimming. The black dots still dance mockingly in his eyes. He gulps in air, trying to remember how to breathe. Was it really this awful the first time? Why could he not remember it being so painful? Until right before? Never again. The pressure. The disorientation. The 1,000 eyes. Shame blankets Katsuki's body, blood rushing to his ears. All Might laughs in front of the cameras and countless people clamoring for his attention, and Katsuki flinches at the sound. With no intention of letting anyone see him in this state any longer, he bolts. "Hey kid," he thinks he hears in the distance. He ignores it. Trying to make it back to his parents' house, Katsuki remembers his mother's words. He is supposed to be grounded, right? To and from school only, she says. Does his sentence include villain attacks or not? She really did not specify. A disturbing laugh bubbles out of his mouth. His legs buckle, and Katsuki stumbles into a huddle of bushes, crashing into the dirt and breathing heavily. Which way is up again? He does not notice time passing until All Might's voice nudges him back to existence. There's something that's said about top heroes when they were still students. Most of their stories are linked by the following line. My body moved on its own before I could think. And you did the same thing. Katsuki covers his mouth, body completely still. This is it. You can become a hero, All Might declares. Midoriya, a child beaten down by prejudice and Katsuki's own fist, the only one who tried to help him, drops to his knees as he sobs. His dream is not dead. Katsuki passes out in the bush. Katsuki's events notebook. Sludge villain incident. Added. Deku gets OFA. Yui entrance exams. Graduated middle school. Did I win the sports festival my first year? Kidnapped by League of Extras. The war for all ends. Graduated high school. Future heroes fellowship stationed in India and China. Returned to Japan. Take a picture. It'll last longer, Katsuki snaps, and the middle-aged lady making sympathetic eyes scoffs and pushes her cart out of the grocery aisle. He does not know what is worse, the constant pointing and staring or the actual event. He would think his patience is astronomical since he is constantly in the eyes of the public as a pro-hero. Above all, he has had worse humiliations in his life. However, there is something grating about this particular event. And these particular stares. The kids at school praise him for surviving, but whisper behind his back. The people on the streets stare at him in pity. God, even his own mother bought him a phone, demanding he text her every hour he is not at the house. The look of abject horror on her face when he finally made it home, the cell phone dialing the police slipped from her fingers, was difficult to process. At least he is granted time outside of school now. Katsuki finishes purchasing the groceries his mother's list, as well as his own, and leaves the store. Honestly, he does not understand the concern. For someone ripped from their time, ripped from the few but strong relationships built by time and personal development, by self-reflection and swallowed pride, ripped from the one thing that made him feel worthwhile and needed and put together, and forced to forge everything over again, Katsuki thinks he is handling it pretty fucking well. Focusing on training helps take his buzzing mind off the attention. He has less than 10 months to beat his body into a better version of his beanpole self for Yui's entrance exam for the hero department. Luckily, he is his own personal trainer. Every Monday through Saturday, Katsuki goes on a 6-mile run for endurance, practices 2 hours of gymnastics for flexibility and balance, takes judo and mixed martial arts classes at the community center in the city, freeruns as much of the way back as he can for agility, and privately hones his quirk control and output in the forest by his neighborhood. At his parents' house, he holes up in his room and studies for the written exam. If it seems like a lot, it is, but his body will get used to it. The burning in his muscles makes him feel accomplished. Besides, he takes Sundays off. Unloading groceries onto the kitchen counter, a head of broccoli for stir-fry makes him speculate how Midoriya is managing. The boy disappears outside of school. Not like he sees him outside of classes anyway, but they do live in the same neighborhood. He probably started his training with all might if the hand curl he tries to hide under his desk is any indication. Or the fact that he looks like the Walking Dead, mentally and physically exhausted every day. He wonders what training under All Might is like. Young Midoriya, make sure your punches are swoosh and bam. Katsuki tries his best All Might impression while flitting around the kitchen and storing groceries, but ends up wheezing from laughter in front of the refrigerator. You can't give up. I'm dumping the weight of the world on your shoulders. Plus ultra. He does not say plus ultra in every conversation. Probably. Only crazy people talk to themselves. His mother's voice interrupts his impressions. Takes one to know one, hag, he fires back, finally getting his body under control. Watch your mouth, brat, she warns, but the corner of her mouth is quirked up. She walks into the kitchen, almost hesitant, and roughly ruffles his hair, discreetly checking him over. Katsuki growls inadvertently, swatting at her hands. It is something she started doing after the event. Reassuring herself her son is still here. Satisfied, she grabs a water bottle from the fridge and takes her exit. When you're done, don't forget to do the laundry. I didn't forget. Being a child, even with his crazy training, exam studying, and schoolwork, he still has more free time than as an adult. So, he does not mind the cleaning and errands that much. They are relaxing and they keep his mind calm. Though, if Katsuki has to choose a favorite, it would be folding laundry. The fresh scent of laundry and the gentle warmth of clothes straight from the dryer are so satisfying. He snorts. When did chores stop being a chore to him? You're like an old lady, Kaken. I'm not old, I'm responsible, dipshit. I would be embarrassed if all my shirts were missing buttons like yours. Hey, they're not all missing buttons. Katsuki shakes the memory from his mind. His day rolls by leisurely as he finishes the laundry, works on controlling his quirk in confined spaces, and practices the essay prompt portion of the written exam. He rubs his eyes and stretches his sore muscles in his chair. These essay prompts are the most useless skill in the world. He writes memos, reports, even hero policy reviews, not choppy, condensed essays on worthless topics. Katsuki checks the time. 11:39 p.m. He could use a break. He browses his old bookshelf, amused by the large amount of romance novels on his shelf. So, the All Might obsession is too embarrassing, but the romance novel obsession is all right? Hey, younger self. He could not remember the last time he read a romance novel. Most of his books at home are mystery and crime thrillers. He wonders when his genre preferences changed. He plucks the first book he sees, a cliché cover of a boy and girl glaring at each other, and flops onto his bed. He will read a few chapters and get back to studying. He is surrounded by rows and rows of eyes, curled in delight, laughing at him, criticizing him for being useless and volatile. He tries to move, but he cannot. Something black, something viscous, wraps around him, restraining him. He can only stare back at the millions of eyes picking him apart. Kaken! Kaken! Stop calling his name like that. Dynamite. There is Zuko is, sprinting to him, draped in green lightning and the commanding authority of his work uniform. Look, here comes a real hero. Your face seemed to be calling for help, Izuku claims, his voice vaguely mocking. When he finally reaches his restrained body, he stops and watches Katsuki struggle. Pathetic. Pathetic is chanted around him, eerily similar to Best Jeanist's disappointed voice. Katsuki squeezes his eyes shut. Stop. He opens them slowly, and he is staring at his 14-year-old body staring back at him, watching him suffocate as the coils of black twist tighter around his kid body. He looks like he is pleading for help, unable to call out. Though, due to the sludge or his own toxic delusions, he wonders? Katsuki bucks in surprise, watching skin bubble and dissolve, blood spraying, and innards squelching to the ground. Inside, the mask of a red demon peeks out. The red Yaksha. He slithers out of the gore, meandering towards him with such calm, taking in his immobilized form. He circles, like a predator assessing his prey. It seems, no matter how you grow, weakness is in your DNA. The Yaksha slinks into a snake, yellow fangs bared. He lashes. His throat is burning. Katsuki wakes with a start, singe marks in his sheets, smoke hovering in his bedroom. He cannot breathe. He cannot breathe. Forcing his petrified body to move, he slams the window open, sucking in the cool night air, trying to appease his scorched lungs. The smoke in his room clears slowly. He needs a smoke alarm inside this room, he thinks offhandedly, not right outside of his closed door. What the fuck, he spits. He was only reading that stale romance novel. When did he fall asleep? What the fuck was that? He stands abruptly. Whatever that was, it did not happen. He smacks his face a couple of times. Buck up, you trembling fuck. He needs a distraction. And then, everything will be fine because he is fine. Stumbling down the stairs, he spots the cabinet he veers to every time he visits his parents' house. He knocks back 3 shots of whiskey like water, disregarding the way his young body shudders at the foreign substance, and he stalks out the house in the first set of shoes he spots. He just needs some air. And a long, mind-numbing walk. Sure, he may look crazed, lurking around outside in only sweatpants and sandals, but if he actually runs into someone in the dead of night, they can, respectfully, fuck off. He wanders. His walk has no rhyme or reason to it. He just lets his feet keep moving. As long as he outpaces whatever that was, he does not care. He did not grab his phone, and the front door to his parents' house is unlocked. That is concerning. He should care. He should turn back right this instant. He keeps stumbling forward. Frankly, he overreacted. It was a nightmare, plain and simple. People get them every now and then. He has witnessed, and continues to witness, the dark underbelly of Japan, India, and China with the missions he completes. Nightmares are a part of the job description. Every time Aijura gets one, after a gruesome battle, he is always quick to call Katsuki. It is the assumption Katsuki will pick up every time that frustrates him to no end. Well, he does pick up every time, but that is beside the point. He is a busy man. Was a busy man? Katsuki shakes the thoughts from his head. If he worries about getting back to his time, it will only frustrate him. Slow and steady wins the race, right? He will be back and better than ever, and then they can all laugh about it over drinks. First pro to survive the perks of time travel and all that jazz. Well, he would not mind a fast forward through school. He continues to wander, his buzzing mind gradually quieting. Shit, where's your wallet? Can't get this plastered without cash. Katsuki's head instantly turns in the direction of the voice, eyes searching in the darkness, his mind sharpening. At least you're nice to look at. What the hell? Katsuki sprints, his footsteps completely silent as he happens upon an alleyway. Inside, an intoxicated woman is shoved against the brick wall. A tall man hunches over her, sifting through her rumpled clothes, one hand clamped over her mouth. Her wet eyes quiver in absolute fear, her body stock still and unable to move. Katsuki does not need to think to act. He darts forward. Grabbing the back of the man's shirt with both hands, Katsuki throws him over his shoulder. Wah! The man crumples like a raised building, rolling onto his back on the ground. He does not get a chance to look around. Katsuki slams the heel of his foot into his stomach. The scream that rips out of the man's mouth is satisfying, but he needs to shut the fuck up. Immediately, Katsuki kicks the man's head, knocking him out on impact. With a huff, he pushes the man onto his stomach with his foot, hog-tying his arms and legs together with his belt. Assessing his work, Katsuki turns to the shocked woman, clutching the tiny purse she purposefully hid behind her back. "You have a phone?" She flinches at his voice, but belatedly nods her head and fumbles for the device. "Call the police. I'll stay with you until they arrive," Katsuki instructs, trying for a soft tone. He has always been shit at consoling civilians. "Thank you," her voice slightly slurred. I just froze. "I'm sorry, I didn't know what to do. I was just going home. I walked my friend to her place and was going home myself, and he came out of nowhere and pushed me into the wall and put his hand on my mouth and..." The woman is blinking back tears and hyperventilating, staring at the cell phone in her trembling hands as if it will call the police for her. Katsuki cautiously approaches her, well aware of his state of undress, with his hands raised in surrender. "Hey, it's okay. You're going to be okay. If you hand me the phone, I can call the police for you." She sniffles and holds out the device with both hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't think anyone would come." Katsuki dials the police and concisely explains the situation, easily dodging any questions concerning him personally. "The police are on their way," he says, handing the phone back to her. "Okay, thank you," she says, her legs giving out as she slides down the side of the brick wall, knees bunched to her chest. "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have done what I did." Katsuki joins her, leaning his head back against the wall. The man groans in pain as he slowly wakes, too disoriented to form a coherent sentence. "You're wrong," she replies, her voice but a whisper, eyes trained on the dazed assailant in front of them. Katsuki does not know how to answer, so he stays quiet. And true to his word, he stays with her until the police car flashers light up the alleyway. He slips away before they can see him. Ending a man's career in sweatpants and sandals and slightly drunk is not how Katsuki expected his walk to end. However, there is nothing that pulls him from his headspace better than doing the one thing he does best. Save people. It gives him an idea. A bad one. An illegal one. One that he is itching to do again. Being a hero again, no matter how small time, takes his mind off of trivial topics, such as nightmares and their causes. The pressure of being at the top, being one of the best, a power to be reckoned with, well, it forces him to be at his best at all times, mentally and physically. He obviously cannot run out into this world, hands blazing, and have huge citywide brawls. He cannot conduct intricate undercover investigations. He cannot even use his quirk, in the small probability someone pieces 2 and 2 together. However, in the veil of the dark, and his person concealed in black clothes, he could stop cases like tonight's. He is quick on his feet. And, for someone as loud as he, silence comes easy. He knows how to hide in the shadows. Katsuki snaps his fingers in recollection as he paces in his room. What is that quirkless American comic book hero's name again? Like Batman? He pauses. Minus the dead parents, endless riches, child acquiring, and obvious psychological issues. As long as they are within his ability, he does not see why he cannot. Why he cannot stop muggers, robbers, and small-time crooks trying to hide their crimes in the dead of night. And his parents will be asleep hours before he leaves the house. Katsuki winces. No, he can see why he should not. He will be breaking the law. He, even if he is not a licensed pro-hero in this younger body of his. Vigilantism is taken seriously in Japan. Even so, I didn't think anyone would come. Why was a hero not there tonight? If he is not a part of a night raid or undercover mission, Katsuki always patrols at night. Most of the time, they are boring, dragging on endlessly. But he is right there when something does happen. So, the heroes of today must be patrolling at night. And there are a lot more heroes today than in the future. Yet, someone still manages to slip under the radar. I won't do anything excessive, he mumbles to himself, still pacing. I'll stop by the time the entrance exam rolls around. It'd be good to get used to fighting others in this body again. It'll just be more training. After a beat. No one's going to know. And God, does he miss? Herod. H/uncanny vigilante. U/riptide 4107H. My friend saw one. In Muzutafu, Japan. My friend was telling me how he almost got stabbed walking home after an overnight shift at McMite's, and this guy in a hoodie and face mask disarmed and knocked out his attacker. Like instantly. Dude decked him, restrained him, and disappeared lol. My friend thinks he's quirkless. Or has something mental like quick learning, huh? Anyone else see him? He appeared last Thursday after 12 a.m. 14K upvotes, 65 comments. Best comments? Gloobs 6H. I think so? I thought he was a new pro with a shit costume and even shittier manners. Some bastard walked into me and had the gall to say it was my fault. He broke my fucking nose, and I thought he was gonna crack open my skull, but this urban ninja-looking guy drop kicks him out of nowhere. Like he came out the sky. Bastard was out like a light. I kicked him while he was still down too. For good measure. Karma's a bitch, ain't it? But back to the vigilante. After he tied up that guy, he stayed with me, helped me get my nosebleed under control, and waited with me until the police came. Couldn't really get a good look since his hood was up, and he had a face mask on, and I was fucking delirious after getting my face smashed in. But I think he had red eyes? Didn't use a quirk. Happened 2 days ago, after 2 a.m. I think. 3K upvotes, 71 replies. Newest comments. Zaramary 101, 10M. I thought we had laws against vigilantism? Great, you all are okay, but like, leave it to the pros? 99 upvotes, 36 replies. Recent replies. DBS 2M. I mean, he's not the only one, or we wouldn't have this subhereded. But, if it gets out of hand, Hero Comish'll probably do something. I don't really care though. I like not dying. 17 upvotes. Today is his 15th birthday. Well, actually, he forgot today is his birthday, but he should not sweat the small stuff. His mom was happy to remind him this morning. She burst into his room with so many balloons and such a wide and wobbly smile on her rosy face. Every year without fail, his mom does something for his birthday. She takes off the whole day from work and he takes off the day from school. Although today they are fortunate it is a Sunday. Izuka changes the TV channel, searching for any news on the giant hero battle from yesterday and pumping a dumbbell with his free arm. The delicious aroma of souffle pancakes teases his nose and makes his stomach rumble. He sighs, excited. His mom's food is the best. To be honest, Izuka was going to head to the beach and continue his training with all might. He really does not have time to take a break from training if he wants to be ready for the UE entrance exam. No, that is not quite right. He has no time for breaks if he wants to be stronger than the strongest hero. He needs to surpass his limits every waking second to keep up. But he is not about to crush his mom's heart after everything she is doing and has done to celebrate him. She always makes a big deal of his birthday, but his lack of friends really worries her, so she goes all out as much as she can. So he knows he is loved. So he is going to take today off. And All Might already barred him from the beach when he shared his dilemma with the man. Bang, 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 bang. Izuka jumps at the loud knocking on the front door. Wow, where is the fire? He turns towards the kitchen, where his mom is sure to try to cook and answer the door all by herself. I got it, Mom. Oh, thank you, honey. I was just about to go. His mom's soft voice floats from the kitchen as he walks towards the apartment's entrance. He fumbles with the lock a bit before quickly pulling the front door open, an apology already on his lips. Sorry for the wait. Can I help? Kaken? He is sure his face is priceless, because he does not know which emotion is making an appearance. Does he look confused due to the fact his childhood friend is standing in front of his door? Or does he look scared because his childhood friend is standing in front of his door? Does he look impressed because Kaken actually remembers where he lives? Or does he look scared because Kaken actually remembers where he lives? And now he can criticize him whenever he wants? Probably dread. No, definitely dread. Kaken, he exclaims again, his eyes as wide as saucers, hands wrangling to find purchase in this situation. And all the training and encouraging words from All Might slip from his mind as he is once again reduced to the scared little Deku. At least on his birthday, could the other boy not ridicule him? The boy in question lifts an eyebrow, his mouth almost quirked up in a confused smile. Yeah, that's my name, I guess. Don't wear it out, he says, stepping closer. And he pushes a cream-colored box into Izuku's hands. It is decorated with little pink whisks and mixing bowls. Charmy's Cafe is printed on top in flowy, pink script. A quite large box, large enough to fit a cake. But it cannot possibly be a cake. Because then that means Kaken bought him a cake for his birthday. It is your birthday, right? Izuku blinks, his initial dread subsiding as he observes his childhood friend who is crossing his freed arms. Kaken is in workout clothes, orange blinking earphones hanging around his neck. And it is easy to see how much he has been training these past months as well. His body is all sharp, lean muscle and little fat. Wound up and deadly, coiled and tight, as if he is ready to strike at all times. And he has dark blotches under his eyes. Which is confusing because, if Izuku remembers correctly, Kaken always goes to sleep early at night. A healthy diet and 8 hours of sleep is his childhood friend's mantra. So, what is preventing him from sleeping? Is something bothering him? What could be so intense that it disturbs the Katsuki Bakugou? Izuku gasps internally. Is it the sludge villain incident? What else could it be? Kaken disappeared immediately after the attack. 1 second he was on the ground next to him, winded by All Might's massive punch, and the next, he was gone. Izuku did not see the other boy leave. Yet, he came to class the next day looking perfectly fine. Izuku did not think anything of it. Well, he could not think anything of it. He had been told his dreams were not dead by his idol. His mind was sort of occupied. Kaken snaps his fingers in his face. Hello? Izuku flinches, his wandering mind halting to a stop, and he blurts the first thing his malfunctioning brain-to-mouth filter allows. It's not going to blow up in my face, is it? Izuku pauses, closing his eyes as an unnatural calm blankets his body. His mouth sets in a thin straight line. Curse his nervous speaking tendencies. Because he is going to die now. Sorry, All Might. But the impending explosion does not slam into his face. Instead, he is left with a quiet snort. Izuku opens his eyes at the noise. Kaken shakes his head lightly, the corner of his mouth quirked up. He is not mad. Not even a little bit. Good idea, Kaken finally says. Next time. He turns to leave, plugging his earphones back into his ears, but Izuku's mom pops up behind her very confused son. Kakatsuki, she gasps, her hands covering her mouth. Katsuki dear. It's been so long. Oh, the last time I saw you, you were barely as tall as my hip. Kaken turns back around, looking quite surprised. Really? His mom nods, a small smile on her face that does not seem to reach her eyes. She glances at the cake box in Izuku's hands, and it is like watching a slow-motion movie play on her face. The confusion, the incredulousness, then the intense appreciation. Her eyes wobble, tearing up in the classic Midoriya way. Katsuki, did you bring this over for my little Zuzu? She whispers, her soft voice wavering. She wipes her eyes, a gentle smile on her face. Why don't you come in? We are just about to sit down for a special birthday brunch. And I made enough food to feed a whole town. Izuku balks. He is about to leave, and now they are inviting him in? Okay, he has to admit, the explosive boy seems to have mellowed out immensely these past months. He is quieter, and he keeps to himself even more than before. Even more importantly, Kaken has not laid a single hand on Izuku since that day he forgot his own seat in class. The day of the sludge villain incident. Sometimes his friends try to rile Izuku up out of boredom, but Kaken will snag their collars and drag them away before anything bad happens. It is insanely weird and disturbing. However, Twilight Zone or not, Izuku does not want to spend his birthday with his childhood friend. Kaken immediately shakes his head. No, thank you. I'm about to work out so... He bows his head slightly and turns to leave again. But Izuku knows his mom. She has been moved by this suddenly heavy cake box in his hands. Someone other than herself has acknowledged her son's birthday for the first time in 10 years. She has to invite him in. And she will not take no for an answer. She waves her hands. Nonsense. Surely you can spare time for such a special meal? They silently sit across from each other as his mom finishes preparing a feast of souffle pancakes, tamagoyaki, little decorative sausages, grilled fish, several vegetable side dishes, and miso soup. The situation is incredibly awkward, and for the love of all things all might, Izuku cannot stop fidgeting. How could he stop? What is he supposed to say to Kaken? How does he talk to the other boy again? Have they ever had a real conversation before? What can he say? He rides his hands together under the dining table, staring at the small floral vase placed in the middle of it. He hears the other boy sigh, and his head snaps up in response. Kaken scratches the back of his head. Look, I can leave. Izuku straightens his hunched back and waves his hands dramatically. No, my mom really wants you here, and when she's dead set on something she gets like this. He chuckles nervously. Kaken frowns slightly, and they fall silent again, listening to the clanking of cookware and his mom's happy humming in the kitchen. After a beat, the other boy opens his mouth again. I heard Mount Lady fought a giant villain the other day. Oh yeah. I read about it online. I was actually looking for some news reports or hero talk show segments before you came. Izuku begins, surprised by the change in topic. However, this is his chance. His chance to quell the obvious awkwardness, and he is going to roll with it. I follow a bunch of pro-hero blogs and forums, and one completed a whole analysis on the fight. Super interesting stuff. And really thought out too. It looks like the villain, Big Ma'am, had a quirk similar to gigantification, but not quite. It was more like she inflated her body like a balloon with stretchy but tough skin. And she used that to expand herself to 3 stories high. Izuku sucks in a big breath. I was actually planning on watching some more videos I saved on the fight tonight, but this one, Izuku pulls out his cell phone and quickly opens a video on YouTube, practically vibrating in his seat. He leans across the table so Kaken could see. This video is so much better than the other ones. This one really captures Big Ma'am's inflation perfectly. Look how she, oh dear God. Izuku freezes mid-ramble, and Big Ma'am's cackling from the video fills the abrupt break in conversation. He is doing it again. Going on and on like some obsessive hero freak. To Kaken. Izuku worries his bottom lip between his teeth, horrified. Fortunately, like the angel she is, his mom chooses that exact moment to pop out of the kitchen, placing various plates of breakfast dishes on the table. Okay, everything is just about ready. What would you boys like to drink? She asks, patting her hands on her half apron. Water's fine with me, Kaken replies, his voice lacking any frustration over Izuku's hero geek out. He sighs in relief. Milk please. Thanks. His mom is back as quickly as she leaves, seating herself on one of the open ends of the table. She clasps her hands together and beams. Well, let's dig in. Izuku tries to make sure he eats his vegetables and protein, but his mom's pancakes are so delicious. He cannot help eating 2, or 3, or 5. He is not a horrible cook, per se. He just has trouble with following recipes that say things like add to taste, or fold until mixed but keep the air bubbles. Or ones that do not provide proper explanation over skills he should probably have before starting the recipe. Nevertheless, the recipe should not assume the reader knows how to do something, so the fire alarm going off or the god-awful taste is not only his fault. In conclusion, he is not a great cook, but he can make cereal. It's really good, Auntie, Kaken says after a moment, and his mom shines. Oh, thank you, dear. You know, she starts, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. Izuku freezes. He does not like the tone of her voice. It almost sounds like she is going to invite Kaken to something. Something Izuku wants to enjoy only with his mom. We are going visit the Muzutafu Hero Museum after brunch if you would like to join us. They are showcasing a second-generation heroes exhibit this week, and I know I only have 2 tickets, but I can easily purchase another one. Izuku chokes on his milk. Kaken's eyes flicker towards him. I'm not dressed for a museum, he declines in a roundabout way. Izuku and his mom take in the black dropped armhole tank top with the abstract gray skull painted on it, the black running tights with an orange stripe running down the sides. Belatedly, his mom waves her hand dismissively. Nonsense, Izuku can lend you a sweatshirt? I can. He can? He can? Kaken looks between the two of them like they just stepped out of their human disguises and revealed their true alien selves. It is nice to know Izuku is not the only one who is uncomfortable with the situation. But how can the other boy say no to his mom? He already knows it is impossible. Okay? Then it's settled. Izuku, honey, why don't you take Katsuki to your room while I clean up and purchase the ticket? Izuku almost feels compelled to apologize for his mom's pushiness, but he catches himself. As he searches through his dresser for a clean sweatshirt, Kaken silently wanders around his bedroom, pushing away stray balloons and perusing the display of All Might figurines, one hand shoved into the stretchy pocket of his running tights. Embarrassment heats his face because, of course, he forgets how much of an All Might shrine his room has become. With multiple posters on the walls, action figures and other collectibles on every surface, even his bedspread is All Might's blown-up head. From the rude cake comment and the hero geek out at the dining table to this, Izuku is not sure how much more he is going to see of this suddenly benevolent Kaken. He is long overdue for some type of detonation. He starts quickly, gaining Kaken's piercing stare, and extends an outstretched hand containing a sweatshirt. Here you go, Kaken. Kaken snatches the sweatshirt and pulls it over his head in a fluent motion. The sleeves barely reach his wrists, and it looks a little tight. He pushes the sleeves up to his elbows and yanks at the restricting collar. He sniffs. It reeks of nerd. Sorry? Why the fuck does it say, tourist? It came like that? Kaken breathes. Let me rephrase. Why do you own this dumb sweatshirt? Hey, I like it. I picked it out, Izuku's voice cracks. Figures, Kaken mumbles, his stare is full of condescension. Izuku does not know what to say to that, but he is highly offended. He pouts. Not everyone has fashion designers for parents. And he likes shirts with text on them. Yet, however critical Kaken's stare is, it still does not feel as mean as it could be. It is almost light. Teasing. Not long after, his mom pops her head into his room, and they are off to the museum. The bustling of people and activities is quite overwhelming. Izuku tends to go to these types of hero events by himself, so it is fairly new for her. Even before entering the sliding front doors, she could tell this event is going to make her little Zuzu happy. The doormen and women hand out little decorated bags full of 3D glasses, events and information booklets, various trinkets and baubles, and a map. Izuku practically vibrates as he consumes every bit of information in his bag, securing one of the hero-themed pins to his shirt. Inko cannot help but giggle. The museum visit has a little bit of everything for every learner of every age. It is visual, audio, and easy to enjoy with others or alone. Life-sized wax figures of the most popular pro-heroes of the age dawn long hallways. Commissions of intricate and thought-provoking art line others. Live shows with enthusiastic storytellers animatedly retell the adventures of heroes to museumgoers sitting on the edge of their seats. Mom, can I? Izuku starts. He shifts from one foot to the other, looking into the museum and back to her. Inaudibly asking for permission to run off. Inko covers her smile with her hand and nods. Of course, honey. Today is for you. Enjoy this visit however you'd like. Thanks, Mom. You're the best. And he is off like a track star. Inko glances at the other boy. She is embarrassed to say she forgot he was even standing next to her. He silently schemes through the informative booklet on the showcased heroes, folding down a couple of corners. Katsuki, dear, do you want to join Izuku? He looks up at the sound of her voice, but he shakes his head. No, I'm good. After a second. He's got a little too much enthusiasm for me to keep up. Inko cannot stop the little snort that escapes her nose. Then, would you like to walk with me? Katsuki shrugs. Sure. Inko is surprised. Talking to the explosive teenager is quite easy to do. Following the meandering walkways, Inko has no trouble making small talk. And Katsuki hides it well, but he is surprisingly knowledgeable of several second-generation heroes. As they stop in front of the different displays, he would add little tidbits of information here and there. Though most of his tidbits tend to be criticisms mumbled under his breath. To be honest, Inko is a little nervous talking to the boy, so she starts rambling fairly quickly, going on about grocery store sales, politics, the weekly weather, her job, and any other topic that pops into her mind. And yet, Katsuki listens to every word she says. She is surprised to find that he is temporarily shopping for groceries in the Bakugou household, so they share insider knowledge about upcoming sales. He is also frustrated with some of the economic policies trying to pass through government right now, going on about how they will bite us in the ass in the future, and Inko let him rant for a solid 10 minutes about it. She did not know he even knew about politics. Though, listening to the teen talk, she also notices how tired he sounds. When he popped up in front of their door, Inko was so surprised and touched by the birthday cake that she did not have time to take in the growing boy in front of her. Now she has the time. And she worries for his health. No growing child should have such dark patches under their eyes. He should be able to sleep at night, rest his mind and body, refresh himself for the day to come. No growing child should look like they are training their body beyond its breaking point, like some sort of child soldier. No child should have troubles so deep. It forces them to sound so resigned. But this child does he not? After the sludge incident, Inko called Mitsuki. She had already wrapped her own son up in a blanket of hugs and tears after learning he was involved. That wretched villain touched her precious boy. How dare he? Though, if she was feeling so helpless and angry, she wondered how her friend felt as well. Mitsuki is quite the preacher of tough love and discipline. She is a very hard-headed mother, difficult to please and only accepting the best from her son, but turns around and acts so openly loving and sociable to her friends. The whiplash from her emotional switches gets to Inko sometimes. And her friend was a mess. Inko had never heard Mitsuki cry before, and the woman bawled hard enough to make it challenging to breathe. She was barely able to explain how Katsuki came home so late, looking so pale, so sick and dirty. She had never seen her son look like that before. Izuku bounces up to the pair, his 3D glasses pushed into his unruly hair, and practically shines. You have to go the next 3D showing of Dr. Risible. She is amazing. When her son gets like this, Inko knows she will not be able to talk until her son has hurled every word from his mouth. So, you know how Ms. Joke's quirk, outburst, forces villains to burst into laughter so intense that it dulls their motor skills and cognitive abilities? Dr. Risible does the opposite. Well, not quite the opposite, but sort of. She manipulates emotions and causes villains to fall into such an intense state of depression that they can't function. It's terrifying. So cool. He digs through a new themed string bag. When did he get that? And pulls out the well-read events booklet. There's a live-action event about her starting soon, so I'm off. See ya. Inko's heart soars, watching her son speed walk around people and disappear into a different area of the museum. She is so glad he is enjoying his birthday. Inko furrows her eyebrows, a reprimand at her disposal as she turns towards the boy. She stills. Katsuki is staring off in the direction her son disappeared, a poignant and reminiscing smile nipping at his face. Some things never change. Her heart thuds in her chest, slow and heavy. She does not think he realizes he is speaking out loud. And she does not think she should have witnessed that. A private viewing of emotion she has never seen on the boy before. As fast as it settles, a neutral calm washes the smile away, masking its existence. Shall we check out the show then, Auntie? He asks, looking down at his events booklet. Oh, sure, sweetie. Inko shakes the worries from her head. Today, she should be happy. It is a day worth being happy for her son. That not only she is celebrating, but also one of Izuku's classmates as well. Because it has been 10 years. 10 whole years since the last time another child celebrated her son's birthday. It was like being quirkless was some sort of repulsive branding on his back. A warning to all of the other children that he was to be avoided, bullied, tormented, for being different. No child wanted to go to her son's 5th birthday. Why? Mitsuki had to force Katsuki to come, the child kicking and screaming that he did not want to hang out with the useless, quirkless nobody. Mitsuki knocked some sense into him, the way she always does. But Katsuki did not want to be there, and he made it apparent. Inko's son had to blow out his birthday candles next to a child who despised him and two mothers who did not know what to do. What does a mother do in a situation like this? When no one wants to befriend her child? When they judge her precious, bright boy before ever getting to know him? When they laugh at him and beat him for having dreams like theirs? Where did she go wrong? Following the child who despised her son down the hall, years of helplessness, guilt, frustration, grief, pool inside of her like a vat of acid. Could she not see how uncomfortable they were, being forced to share this day once again after 10 years? How could she invite this boy into her house? To be moved by a single act of kindness after years of torment? But she remembers. He is not the problem. Inko breathes. I used to be so angry with you. Katsuki whips his head around, confusion evident on his face, but any words he planned on speaking die on his tongue as he stares. I'm not stupid, Katsuki. I know you aren't the kindest to my son. And I was mad at you for the longest time. She finds an empty bench near the showing of Dr. Risible and pats the seat next to her. Katsuki hesitates. Though he quickly steels himself, huffing and plopping down next to her, arms crossing and uncrossing awkwardly. Did you know Izuku never outright blames you? She starts, thinking carefully of her words. I don't mean. He never says you aren't mean or nasty, but he never blames you for the reason behind it. He blames himself for being quirkless. For being less than. Katsuki stays quiet, rubbing his hands into his tights. But his eyes connect with hers as she speaks. And I thought that was outrageous. How can he blame himself for what others do? Inko continues, closing her eyes for a moment. She remembers this conversation like it were yesterday. The disturbing feeling that clung to her when she realized her mistakes. But that's when it dawned on me. That was the moment I stopped being angry at you. My son believed that, because he wasn't enough, others had a right to make fun of him. And that infesting thought, isn't anyone's fault but my own. It is a mother's duty to lift their child up and protect them from the world, Inko states. And I failed. They sit in silence, watching various museumgoers pass by. Watching the Dr. Risible showing fill with interested visitors and the doors close. Children holding themed toys, touching their painted faces, and barreling down the halls. Parents running after them with amused smiles on their faces. Inko is thankful for the silence, allowing her to calm herself. It is not uncomfortable, surprisingly. Katsuki is not exuding some sort of dark aura. Not exploding on her, as if he ever did, or defending himself. She spoke her piece and he listened. Katsuki does finally find his voice. You didn't fail at being a mother, auntie. Believe me, your son is nothing but special. It annoys me that he still doesn't realize how special he is. People bullied. I bullied your son because he threatened my very existence, I think. Not that that is any excuse. What I did is inexcusable. And I am sorry. All I can really do is promise to be better. Inko smiles inwardly. She never thought she would see the day Katsuki realizes his wrongdoings. Someone has made this boy grow exponentially. She is not sure who, but she is grateful to them that he is learning and adapting. Unfortunately, she does not get the chance to voice her appreciation. He sighs deeply, checking the time on his phone. I need to leave. Thank you for inviting me along, auntie, when you obviously didn't have to, but I think I overstayed my welcome. After several hours of exploring and learning, Izuku's mom taps him on the shoulder. She has a weary smile on her face. Ready to go grab dinner, honey? Izuku blinks, looking between the wall of text he was absorbing and his mom before nodding. Oh yes, of course. Sorry. I got a little carried away. He chuckles nervously, lightly scratching his cheek with his finger. He looks around his mom who is clutching his borrowed sweatshirt. Where's Kaken? His mom makes a face, pinched between guilt and embarrassment, before speaking. He said he had some errands to finish, so he had to leave. She sighs, placing a palm on her cheek. I really did want us all to enjoy the cake he bought together. He offers his mom a hug, pulling the woman in tight and reveling in her familiar warmth. It is weird. He breathes easier now that Kaken is finally out of his hair. And yet it is still sort of sad. Disappointing even. The whole day was incredibly awkward, but it was not bad. Kaken never did lay a hand on him. Nor did he get mad at Izuku for being, well, himself. He is unsure how much of the day's awkwardness was because he has not hung out with another person his age in a long time, or if it was because the person in question was Kaken. The two of them end up watching one of his favorite pro-hero documentaries while eating the cake Kaken gifted. Coincidentally, it is also about second-generation heroes. Though, saying it is one of his favorites is quite biased because he has a lot of favorite hero documentaries. Namely all of them. Izuku takes one bite of the cake and pauses, staring quizzically at the large slice on his small plate. He has never had this combination of cake base, fruit, and icing before. But somehow, it is his favorite flavor. Katsuki knows what he said. He is a man of his word. However, he crouches atop the ledge of an apartment building, scanning the residential and commercial areas in the dead of night. He would like to amend his previous statement. He promises to stop this vigilante act once school starts. He has about a week until his acceptance letter arrives in the mail. He will obviously get accepted into UE, and about a month or so until the school year starts. How else will he pass the nighttime? The written exam was easy. The practical exam was boring. He blew up so many robots, he lost count after 50. Maybe UE should challenge their prospective students a little more. He shakes his head. His thoughts are distracting him from the task at hand. He continues to examine the area with squinted eyes, paying more attention to the dimly lit or unlit areas than those with adequate street lighting. He sees a man walk into a store. Nothing out of the ordinary. If only the store was not closing up, and the man did not look so jumpy. Hey! The shop owner slowly looks up, her face devoid of any other emotion than calm. She raises her hands in surrender. A terribly skinny young man stands in front of her, illegal firearm pointed at her face. Open the register. Everything you got? You hear me? She swallows thickly, but she keeps her calm. It is evident this is not her first rodeo. Of course. I am going to reach behind the counter now and open the register, she narrates, lowering her hands. To the average eye, he is a measly crook looking to skimp cash off of a hardworking and vulnerable person. But Katsuki can see the slight tremble in his hands. The tightness of his muscles knotted from the nerves. The sweat rolling down his neck. Eyes darting at every little movement. He does not want to do this. But, for some reason he has no other choice. Something backed him into a corner he cannot leave. H, the young man's voice cracks, and his eyes flash panicked. H, hurry it up. He cannot observe this situation any longer. One wrong move, and this flight risk will become a homicide case. Katsuki slips out into the open, the store owner's eyes shifting to his moving body. You sure about this? He suddenly asks, right behind the unsuspecting young man. The young man recoils violently, whipping around. Fear dances wildly through his eyes. Who? How? In the confusion, Katsuki lunges forward and easily disarms him, taking the firearm from his wobbly hands. He looks like he wants to bolt. His body visibly trembles. Caught in an act gone nowhere near as planned. Katsuki glares at the young man, eyes narrowed in disdain. He is well aware of the intensity of his eyes. Eyes that can switch from the calm before a storm to the anger of a grim reaper come to judge a lost soul. So, what Damassari ran through your mind to do something like this? Speak up. I see you're having some malfunctions, so let me rephrase. I said, Katsuki snaps, purposefully striding up to him. The young man shrinks in on himself, ducking his head between his knees. Katsuki kneels in front of him and tentatively places a hand on his bony shoulder. His voice is low, but laced with concern as he speaks. Do you need help, kid? The young man stills. In a moment freed from his apprehension, his eyebrows knit together in stunned confusion, and he glances up at Katsuki. Whatever expression greets him seems to hit him like a truck, and he bites his lip with regret. You're obviously hurting. And this, Katsuki lifts the disarmed firearm secured in his other hand. This isn't the answer. It doesn't have to be. So, let me help you. And everything that was bottled up in the young man's malnourished body explodes into the air. His face screws up as if he were stung, tears pricking his scrunched eyes. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me. I didn't know what else to do. My little brother. He said he was hungry. He looks between their stares and laughs humorlessly. You don't get it. You won't get it. My little brother is the nicest person on the planet. He doesn't complain when the water shuts off. Or when we can't have heat during winter. Or when other kids get to go to school and play together, but run from him. He just accepts it. And my little brother, a 5-year-old who learned he can't have things like other kids, who never complains, said he was hungry. The young man breathes a shuddering exhale, eyes trained on the tile floor. I'm such a horrible brother. The one thing I could give him was food. No matter how I could get it. I can't let him feel like he can't have that too. It's not fair to him. It's not fair at all. The store is silent as the explosion settles. The smoke is suffocating. Katsuki's hand leaves his shoulder, and he whimpers at the loss, shoving his head back between his knees. Child, what's your name? The store owner asks. Her voice is as even as it was the moment the man opened the door. Haru. It's Haru. Please raise your head, Haru. I'm not mad. Haru takes a minute before he peeks up from the floor, tears and snot streaming down his hollowed face. The store owner is kneeling in front of him. My name is Chiaki. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to meet you? Haru replies, his stumbling voice etched with uncertainty. How are you doing? Because I am exhausted. I don't like working late, and I don't like running a store by myself. My back hurts. My feet hurt. My wrist hurts. And don't get me started on nasty customers, Chiaki complains, hands thrown in the air. She looks directly at Haru, a smile crinkling her weary face. I could really use some help. I could use an assistant. Someone who can help me manage at my age. Now, it is ultimately your decision, and I won't make it easy, but it will be honest work. And I own the small apartment above this store. I've never used the place, more of a storage room, really. So, if you and your little brother would like to stay up there, I can easily move some things around. It's heated and has running water. She pauses. My cooking is inedible some days, but I'm sure we can figure it out. You want to help me? But water under the bridge. Really? Really? But, son, I'm dying here. I don't like doing 2 a.m. intake and inventory when I open the store at 5. So, Haru hiccups, an arm slides across his wet nose, and he sniffles loudly. But he is nodding his head like crazy. I'm so sorry for everything. Thank you, Mississippi. Thank you so much. Katsuki vanishes from the store before either of the two realizes. He dismantles and throws the firearm in 3 different rivers. 15. Katsuki rides the bounce of the slackline tied between 2 trees in the backyard. Sweat slides down the side of his face. At the rise of the walking rope, he jumps and backflips, catching himself on 1 foot back on the rope. 16. Honestly, he is just fucking around between training regimes. He wants to see how many backflips he can land before he loses his balance. Katsuki? The gentle tone of his father's voice calls to him from the sliding backyard door, a large envelope in his hands. His Yui acceptance letter, no doubt. Be right there, he replies, easily hopping off the rope. It bounces without his weight before evening out. He takes the envelope from his father's extended hands and dodges his mother's probing ones. Don't avoid me, you little shit. You want to be covered in my sweat? Be my fucking guest, he snaps, hopping over the back of the couch. His parents crowd behind him. The envelope contains a packet of papers and an electronic puck. And the second Katsuki sets the puck on the coffee table in front of him, a holographic All Might clad in a striped suit barges into their space. Is this thing on? All Might questions, his face getting too close to whoever is filming. It is, sir. Oh, dear, young Katsuki Bakugou. With a perfect score on the written exam and the highest score of 84 points on the practical exam, congratulations. Come on down, my boy. Yui is now your hero, academia. Katsuki blinks. A teasing snort belatedly escapes his nose at All Might's exaggerated movements and facial expressions. Does he do this for every acceptance letter? Sounds about right for him. His father's arms tenderly wrap around him from behind the couch. I am so proud of you, Kats. I know you've been working hard for this every day. I knew you could do it, Masaru praises, his voice blossoming pride in Katsuki's chest. Even at his age, praise from his father never fails to make him feel capable. As soon as Masaru pulls away, Mitsuki, already jumping in excitement, slaps him on the back a few times. And he said top scores? That's my kid, all right. Nothing less than the best, she brags, eyes lit up in glee. Katsuki rolls his eyes. He was competing against prepubescent children. This victory was guaranteed. However, he is not opposed to his father's request to go out to eat and celebrate. A few days after the Night Stalker incidents, Heard H/Uncanny Vigilante. U/Brokeback Mountain 12H. Hey, it's me, Himari Takahashi. Since I can't find the posts for this vigilante, hoodie and face mask guy, I'm starting a new one. And it's a long one. Because I am the first survivor and the last victim of the Night Stalker. And I have nothing better to do in this hospital bed, so I'm telling my story. It's my story, so you should hear it from me. On a totally unrelated note, my surgeries and physical therapy are free. The Night Stalker is not who people think. He wasn't a mastermind villain the pros couldn't catch. Nor was he an elusive serial killer of the night. He was just a creepy stalker holding flowers. I was walking home late from work because my boss is evil. And this guy would not stop pestering me. I just wanted to go home and snuggle with my dog. I was so tired, please don't judge me, but I humored him for a minute. He said he had something quick to say to me. Standing by the side of a building, away from everyone, I'm a legislative assistant. Guys, I am smart. I should have realized my mistake. But I was so tired. He was breathing hard and stood too close. And he asked me out. Like any sane person, I refused and turned to leave. I think he hit me over the head with something because, the next thing, I'm waking up in a teetering chair with my neck chained up like some private hanging. No, like, he was going to hang me. When he noticed I woke up, he started going on and on about how too many females can't identify a nice guy even if one walked right up to her. And it was his duty to cull all the whores of the world, so decent men can find pure wives, not succubi. If I wasn't so scared for my life, I would have laughed. He obviously practiced this speech to make me look like the one in the wrong here. Did every victim have to listen to this monologue? Please, spare me your sob story. And then he kicked out my chair, and I was choking to death. It's not something I want to discuss further. I thought I was going to die because I rejected one guy. But, thankfully, our vigilante broke the chain from where it was secured on the floor, and I could breathe again. I never thought I'd miss the feeling of concrete under my feet. But my stalker went feral. And he cloned himself 15 times over. 15 times. There were 16 creepy men, angry and barreling towards our vigilante. You don't get how crazy it was. He fought really hard, but nothing our guy did stop those persistent clones. They wouldn't disappear. And after a while he didn't have the upper hand anymore. And then they realized I was still there too. I honestly can't tell what was worse. Having to listen to 5 of the same stalker repeatedly call me derogatory words, or the fact that they beat and kicked me so hard, something snapped in my spine. I couldn't feel my legs anymore. I couldn't feel anything after that. I could only watch. The remaining 10 clones hurled our vigilante into a wall as their creator watched, and when he hit the concrete, he grabbed the scrap metal and stabbed one of the clones in the chest. And it disappeared. It turned out stabbing them did the trick. And once the stalker realized our guy knew it, he was terrified. Like the undead, our vigilante rose and stabbed every single one of them with this rusted piece of scrap metal. I'm not saying they didn't put up a fight, but it was a useless fight. And man, was our vigilante pissed. If only you could have seen him. He was like some sort of demonic creature, punishing those who wandered into his abandoned building. He turned to the real stalker, who, mind you, was quaking in his boots and yelling at our vigilante that his cause was just and right. And he chucks the scrap metal at the guy and stabs him through the shoulder. The guy was so distracted by the pain, he didn't see our vigilante stumble up to him until it was too late. I watched him punch the stalker's lights out until his fist was as red as his eyes and the night stalker had no front teeth left. I'm embarrassed to say I was scared when he rounded on me. My stalker was out cold behind him, and he was hobbling over to me. They really did a number on him, but I was still a little scared. What was I going to do, though? Run away? He dropped to his knees in front of me and apologized. For being late. When I tell you I was taken aback? This wasn't his fault? So, why was he the one saying sorry? He saved me. He even called the police and paramedics for me. But he was so sad. Like he failed me or something. I could have been dead. Dead because I let a creepy guy talk me into an alley. Dead because I told a serial killer I didn't want to date him. And the doctors say I've got a great chance of walking again after my second surgery. If I could have opened my mouth, if I could have said anything, I would have thanked him. If our vigilante ever sees this post, seriously, dude, thank you. No one else was there but you were. My life exploded into a million pieces, and the only one there for me, the only one standing at ground zero, was you. 357k upvotes, 249 comments. Best comments? Stereosynthenite, 5H. Holy shit. I am so sorry for what happened to you. I saw your story in the Muzutafu Times. I am glad you are on the road to recovery, first and foremost. Second, I'm happy your surgery is paid for, but did you know who paid for it? And who's taking credit for saving you? I didn't know our vigilante saved you. This third-rate hero, the builder, took credit for everything. It was all over the news. And his hero office is the one paying for your surgery. Fuck him. Edit. OMG, this whole thread got blasted around social media and picked up by the Muzutafu Tribune and Channel 8. The builder's in it deep now, haha, hashtag banned the builder. 155k upvotes, 97 replies. Best replies. DBS 3H. Screw him. But I also saw on another hero site that the Hero Commission is holding a series of meetings about the increase in vigilantism, and they may start cracking down harder. Which is such bull. They're only doing this because Ground Zero is gaining more traction, and their stupid hero messed up. I really hope he doesn't get caught in it, hashtag Ground Zero Army. 93k upvotes, 65 replies. Pirate Booties 270 28M. Is that what we're calling him now? Hashtag Ground Zero Army. A couple of hours after the Night Stalker incidents, Katsuki stares a hole into the shower floor, watching the water dilute his blood under the spray. Anger bubbles in his chest, hot and corrosive, and he clenches his hands into fists. That fucking bastard should feel blessed he had the control to not blow up his face. Let us review the facts. First, he arrived late at the scene. Second, he got his ass beat by a deranged man. And third, he let an innocent civilian get severely injured. He does not need to be a doctor to know that woman cannot walk. She cannot walk because he was too slow to realize something was amiss. He saw the guy walk into the abandoned building, tugging along a large metal suitcase, and he did not think much of it. Not until he was 3 blocks away, and something inside him begged for him to turn back and check it out. That fucker was hanging her from her neck. And Katsuki saw red. Did any of his other victims even live? She could not be the first, not with how comfortable he was using that place. Is he losing his touch as a pro? Spending too much time lazing around in this reverted life, this reverted age? Worrying about trivial things like training for a high school entrance exam? Designing his hero-in-training uniform? Relaxing on Sundays? It has been nearly a year since he was dropped back in time. His body is 15 years old, his mind 30. He trains himself to the best of his ability during the day and saves as many people as he can muster at night. It is not enough. Is it because he gave himself the silly provision of not using his quirk? Should he start using his quirk at night? His decision was correct, is still correct. His quirk is too flashy. Someone with a keen eye can figure it out. Especially if he makes any waves as a high school student. Someone can put 2 and 2 together. Besides, he said he will stop once school starts. Katsuki freezes. What is today's date? He stops the shower, wrapping a towel around his waist and grabbing his phone. Villains have the worst timing. Of course, it is 4 in the morning on his first day at U. He is 90% sure he has a mild concussion. Those clones kicked him good. And they nicked the side of his head. A small but deep gash slices through his left temple, still bleeding out of the shower an hours later. His hand is definitely sprained, most likely fractured if the severe swelling is any indication. He flexes his right hand, grimacing at the shooting pain that runs from his knuckles through his wrist. And his ribs are bruised. One is possibly broken. He tried to block the beatings the best he could, but there is only so much you can do quirkless against 16 guys. Katsuki assesses the rest of the damage in the bathroom mirror. Several black and purple bruises splatter across his body. His nose stopped bleeding fairly quickly, now only bruised. There are no other gashes. He chuckles. He looks like he got hit by a car. He takes a deep breath. His eyebrow twitches as pain blooms in his ribs. This is fine. This is easy. He can stitch up the gash, and his bangs will hide the evidence. Head wounds bleed more than they are worth, so it is not concerning. His mother shares the same complexion as he, so he can borrow her makeup to hide the bruising on his face. A little swelling to his face does not look any different from the baby fat already there. Everything else will be well hidden under his uniform. And he will wrap up his right hand to the best of his ability and deal with it. This is not the worst pain he has endured. He has fought brutal villains in worse conditions and won. And if the school day starts for students and teachers, it starts for staff as well. He can visit Recovery Girl to kiss away the pain of his larger injuries. Though, he is not stupid enough to go to her before school. He knows, the second she heals him, he will be out like a light. Months of training and no sleep will catch up to him in no time. So, that is an after-school Katsuki problem. Even he would regret skipping his first day. Katsuki pats his hair over the stitches and thin bandage on his left temple. It has been a while since he last stitched anyone up. As most pros do, he had first aid and first response training to help stabilize injured civilians and heroes before the real medics arrive. But the last time he had to suture someone was Shudo during an undercover mission. They had no means of getting to a hospital anytime soon. Katsuki shakes his head. That man needs to be more aware of his surroundings. He walks out of the train station closest to Yui, starting to get used to the shooting and bursting pain with every step. Abusing an ibuprofen pill bottle does wonders. His parents will be sad they missed him leave for his first day, but having them find him in this state would be worse. He will leave later in the morning tomorrow. Katsuki stops at the entrance of Yui. He takes in the enormous buildings, full of nothing but glass panels and connected by indoor walkways. The rows of trees and concrete arches lining the pathway. The humongous doors to accommodate all sizes. He knows he returned to this school for the first time during the entrance exams, but this is different. He closes his eyes and sighs. He really is attending high school all over again. Does this mean he should stop calling these kids, well, kids? They are technically teenagers. He's physically a teenager. Yes. Minors are minors. They all look the same age when you are 30. He is the first to arrive to class 1A. Not surprising. The school day starts at 8 in the morning, and he is gingerly settling into his assigned seat 7:15. He pulls out a piece of paper and a pen. He always thought being ambidextrous would help him with his quirk control, and he is glad he carried through on that thought. He scribbles out an arbitrary sentence on the paper with his left hand. The words are a little unruly but manageable. Red splatters on the white page. Katsuki feels frustration climb his spine at the sight. He wipes the thin trail of blood trickling down the side of his face with his thumb, rising from his desk. Good thing he thought to bring extra bandages because this one did not last as long as he thought. Sliding into the first restroom he sees, Katsuki pushes his hair out of his face, assessing the damage. The bandage is dark, full. He gently pulls it off and tosses it into the trash. His stitches are holding perfectly fine. Damn head wounds. He dabs the fresh blood and cleans up the area before replacing the bandage, patting his hair back over the wound. It has to stop bleeding sometime. Are younger bodies not supposed to bounce back quick? He has been very happy not dealing with the random creaks in his joints. The extra energy is nice too. So, can his body get the memo on injury recovery? When Katsuki returns to the classroom, some students are sitting in their seats, trying to mask their first day jitters. The future talk show host is there. Tailboy too. And more arms, more problems. My chemical chromants, okay, he will learn their names this time around. He knew their names at one point in his life, but he does not talk to most of his high school class in the future. He burned those relationships, and the only classmates left are Idru, Izuku, and Shuto. He and Kami really hit it off when she started working at Genius. Or, more accurately, she latched on, and he cannot shake her off. But these are their younger selves. All of his classmates reverted to the teenage versions of the people they become. Who says they will be friends again? Who says he wants to hang around these foreign versions of his friends, holding out for an inkling of hope that they will be the people he craves? Katsuki swings his feet atop his desk, irritated the pain shooting from his ribs is not distracting enough, and he teeters in his chair slowly. He stares aimlessly at the ceiling, a weariness settling over his body as his mind continues to pester him. Maybe he should not try. Regardless, he will always be 15 years older. 15 years off. He will never stop being a man out of time. They are probably better off without him. What? Don't put your legs on the desk, someone shouts in his ear, and he jerks violently in his seat. Katsuki feels the weightlessness of his body falling backwards, and he shoots his hand out, grabbing the desk behind him. Grabbing the desk with his definitely sprained, increasingly fractured, hand. He inhales sharply through his nose and clamps his jaw shut to stop the scream curling in his throat. There is not enough ibuprofen in the world. Tiny explosions pop in his free hand as he pushes himself forward, his chair and feet slamming into the floor. Don't you think that's disrespectful to your classmates? The boy scolds, his arm slicing the air with a robotic chopping motion. Is he above beating a child? At this moment he is unsure. He points at the four-eyed idiot who is oblivious to his dilemma and his throbbing hand. Turn around and walk away before I do something I'll regret, Katsuki threatens in a clipped voice, a tight grimace on his face. The boy splutters in surprise. How can you say, and you want to be a hero? These are very trying times, Katsuki sees. He is about to stand up, but before he can move, a nervous squeak grabs everyone's attention to the door. The boy swerves from his conversation with Katsuki and makes a beeline for Midoriya. Hello. I'm Tenya Ida from Somei Junior High School. Ida extends a hand. Katsuki sinks in his chair. The fact that Midoriya saved him from getting expelled on his first day means he needs to cool the fuck down. They are just kids who do not know that even breathing hurts right now. He tries to tune out the chirps and happy chatter of Midoriya, Ida, and now Uraraka at the front of the class and the rest of his class behind him. A migraine starts to break his ibuprofen stronghold and blur his vision a bit. He swears internally. He better make it through the day or else. He respects Aizawa. He does. However, the class stands outside on the PE grounds for an impromptu quirk appraisal. They have 8 physical tests to complete, and the lowest performing student will be expelled. Katsuki's eye twitches. Expulsion is an obvious lie, but the fact that he needs to perform at his best is still apparent. He should have punched that asshole 10 more times for this. Bakugou, Aizawa suddenly calls, stirring him from his internal brooding. How far could you pitch a softball in middle school? Katsuki raises an eyebrow. Why would he know that? He pauses. No, actually, his younger self has every stat imaginable written down in a notebook he glossed over months ago. I don't know. 70 meters, Mr. Aizawa. He whips his head around at the sound of Midoriya's voice like a madman. How the hell? No, never mind. I don't want to know how you know, he says, trying to reel in his exasperation, exhaling deeply. He turns to Aizawa. You heard the little shit? Language, his teacher warns. Try using your quirk this time around. As long as you don't exit the throwing circle, anything you do is fine. Katsuki looks at the electronic softball in his hand, tossing it lightly to get the hang of using his left hand. All right, this is going to hurt regardless, so he might as well go all out. He will add a good amount of combustion force behind the throw and adjust the pitch a bit. Sucking in air, he winds up his body and flings the softball with one of his larger explosions slamming into it, bellowing his signature catchphrase of motivation. Die. The blowback of his explosion racks through his body, his eyes glossing over even more. Worth it. Remind him to add pain endurance to his training regime. Although avoiding getting hurt on the job is a top priority, it can be inevitable sometimes. This body needs to catch up to his mind. The discrepancy is frustrating. He should be good at working through pain. Aizawa shows the stunned class the small screen in his hand. 725 meters. This is a rational metric that will form the basis of your hero foundation. The tests are not difficult. Long jumping. 50-meter dash. Seated toe touch. Just typical tests they administer during a school gym class. He does his best. It would be nice to have a running list of his stats coming into high school, so he knows where he needs to focus his training. He clicks his tongue. It would be better if he were actually in top shape though. But he cannot have everything. And, as he suspected, no one is expelled. But, somehow Midoriya broke his finger. How did he break his finger? Katsuki stares at the boy cradling the digit with his other hand, looking proud because he is still standing after hurtling that softball through the air. Kid, your finger looks burnt purple. You are not winning any prizes for that. Is All Might teaching him how to control his quirk or not? Because that does not look like control. Hell, with the deep conversations, analyses conducted, and sparring sessions between Izuku and he these past 15 years, Katsuki can teach Midoriya how to use his quirks better than All Might. He will just have to explain how he knows all of this confidential information. Katsuki walks to the nurse's office, hands shoved into his pants pockets. If Aizawa noticed he was off his game, he could have forced him to see Recovery Girl before the performance tests. He hesitates at the entrance of the nurse's office, rapping his knuckles against the door frame before entering. Recovery Girl sits at her desk and flips through a thick packet of paperwork, her eyes flickering to his figure. Oh, hello. I'm Chio Shizenji, but you may call me Recovery Girl. What's your name, child? Katsuki Bakugou, 1A. I have some minor injuries from personal training. She sifts through a stack of papers in a desk divider and pulls out a blank student record chart. Okay, and can you describe how your injuries happened? Katsuki rubs the back of his neck, a line of bullshit forming on his tongue. Yes. I was practicing flight with my quirk, and I slammed into a tree, so I have bruising all over my body. And I landed on my hand wrong, so it swelled a bit. Major areas of discomfort? Probably my ribs. Probably? Recovery Girl continues to scribble notes on the record chart. And another student's shoes shuffle into the office. Kaken, Midoriya says from somewhere behind him. Katsuki does not turn around. He is still irritated about the softball stat. Just a bit. He scowls at the white wall in front of him. What? Mr. Aizawa sent me to get my finger checked out. That's all, the boy replies defensively, and Katsuki can almost hear the gears turning in his mind. Breathe, Katsuki. Be nice. Well, if his brain stops tearing itself to pieces, he will. Start being nice. Recovery Girl finishes filling out his record chart and joins him in the middle of the room. Okay, dearie, this will only take a minute, she tells him. You may feel a little woozy afterwards. Oh, she is starting now. I might want to be on that bed. He begins to recommend, but Recovery Girl kisses his cheek. He blacks out on impact. Katsuki's events notebook. Sludge villain incident. Added. Deku gets OFA. Yui entrance exams. Added. Waste of time. Graduated middle school. Did I win the sports festival my first year? Kidnapped by League of Extras. The war for all ends. Graduated high school. Future heroes fellowship stationed in India and China. Returned to Japan. Flashback, year 2024/2031. Katsuki stares at the letter in his hands. His hands currently shaking from increasing frustration. Who did that shitty nerd think he was? How did he even find him? For fuck's sake, Katsuki is stationed in Delhi, India, now. No one has his address. He exhales sharply, debating on detonating the envelope between his fingertips as he sheds his jacket and shoes at the entrance of his apartment. After the war, Deku officially left Yui. There was a big, sappy going-away party for the nerd as he prepared to leave for the States. He was going to finish high school and attend university over there, alongside his mother. On the other hand, Katsuki finished his time at Yui and graduated with flying colors. He stuck it out, watching Japan try to rebuild with glue and tape. He received an international fellowship, the Future Heroes Fellowship, which provided him with an escape too. To run away with his tail between his legs after his pathetic performance during the war. To attend university and practice as a pro-hero in India and China. To learn how heroes across the continent of Asia become the best of the best. He got to choose his mentors for each 2-year period in each country, and he chose Miruko for India and Best Jeanist for China. He is still surprised Miruko agreed. She is a very independent hero. But so is he. Maybe that is why it worked? In the field, they complement each other, working together but autonomously. And once she got used to having a protege, she excelled at guiding him. Though, he can tell 2 years away from Japan is pushing her kindness. Katsuki dumps the rest of his mail on his dining table and his day backpack on the couch. With the exception of his parents, he did not tell anyone he was leaving. He simply left. Even his parents do not have his home address. He knows his mother will kill him for that when he returns to Japan. So, that begs the question, how the fuck does the nerd know? Fucking stalker. And what can he possibly have to say to Katsuki? This letter can be a lot of things. It can be a formal emancipation from his former bully. It can be a mockery of Katsuki for being a weak dipshit during the war. The war Deku ended himself. Instead, it is just a simple message. Dear Kaken, how are you doing? I'm doing great. I go to the same university All Might did, and I made some new friends. They have amazing quirks. But I won't bore you with my excitement. They did make me try a Twinkie for the first time. I don't recommend it. Twizzlers are next though. Anyways, I don't expect an answer, but I did want to reach out. Izuku. P.S. Don't be so alarmed. I contacted Miruko for your address information. Katsuki scowls at the letter in his hand, crumpling it slightly. A letter is such a frail olive branch. Deku could have called or texted, but writing a letter is different. It is an intimate act with cautious boundaries. Time needed to process, send, and deliver. It says, I do not want to hear your voice, but I do want to hear from you. His scowl deepens. Katsuki wants to burn it. He pulls out a pen and paper. But when he seats himself at his desk, he is no longer in his apartment in Delhi. He is older, and he returned to Japan. Katsuki scrolls on his phone, sitting in one of the office chairs in Genius Interagency conference room. As always, he arrived too early to the next mission brief. Something cold pokes the back of his neck. He jolts, narrowing his eyes and scowling at the snickers erupting from behind him. Deku, he growls. What did I tell you about your cold-ass fingers? Not to do that? Izuku answers in a teasing question, the smile evident in his voice. Yes. But it's funny? You piece of shit, Katsuki spits, but Izuku just snickers again and plops down in the seat next to him. He leans closer, propping his chin on the palm of his hand and peers at Katsuki's phone. What are you looking at? Chirper. We're trending again, he says, and Izuku groans. What is it this time? He whines, stretching out his arms on the round table in front of them. Remember when you used Black Whip to throw me at that stone villain? He starts, and Izuku nods, curious. Katsuki shows him his phone screen. Well, someone caught it on video. And added more fuel to the public dumpster fire on their beloved Wonder Duo. Izuku immediately bites his lip as he scrolls through the chirps. But it is not enough to stop him from bursting out laughing. Hashtag Dekuflings Dynamite. When Dynamite breaks Deku's limited edition All Might figure. When Dynamite and Deku butted heads at the 96th Annual Hero Gala, oh my god, Kaken, these are gold. Yeah, so never do that again. You're the one who asked me to. His eyelids are heavy. He uses too much energy just to pry them open. The natural light seeping into his bedroom is also too bright. His covers are pulled up to his chin, his school bag and uniform folded on top of his dresser. His entire body is sore. The type of sore that develops from training like a maniac and hibernating afterwards. His body screams in agony. Anger. He remembers how nice sleep can be, and he is ravenous. Deprived. He turns his head to the side and sees his father scratching away on a tablet and laptop setup, probably working on his parents' new clothing collection. Katsuki is thankful for their demanding jobs because he could not sneak out as much as he does without them being so distracted by work. His father perks up as he notices his son trying to sit up in his bed. He almost drops his stylus, fumbling with the pen before placing it on Katsuki's desk and saving his work. "Oh, Kats, you're awake," Masaru notes, relieved. "You gave us such a scare there." Katsuki stretches his whining muscles, his face scrunching at their demanding aches and pains. "What happened? How'd I get home?" he asks. He grabs his charging phone from the nightstand and checks the time, cringing at the lit screen. "How is it already tomorrow in the afternoon? Are you serious?" His father gingerly sits at the edge of his bed. "Your school nurse, Miss Shizenji, gave us a call at work when you passed out in her office," he explains, frowning a bit. "You were very hurt, Kats. She said you had multiple broken bones, full-body bruising, and a gash on your forehead? This was from training? Multiple broken bones. So, his hand really was broken, not sprained. And he must have suffered broken ribs instead of bruised ones. At least they never realized he was mildly concussed. I fell." Katsuki winces at how horribly cliché that explanation sounds. "I was practicing flying with my quirk, and I overshot myself into a tree. It was fucking embarrassing, and I didn't want anyone to know. There was a time when he abhorred liars. When did he stop?" Katsuki, his father trails off, his voice laced with concern. "I never liked all this training." Masaru rests the palm of his hand on Katsuki's cheek, a thumb tracing just below one of his eyes. "You have such horrible dark circles under your eyes. Is this from training too?" The back of his hand presses against his forehead. "You're warm too. I can call the doctor for a home visit." Katsuki shakes his head, gently pulling his father's hand away from his face. "You don't have to baby me, Dad." He flexes both of his hands. "There is barely any pain. Recovery girl healed me up perfectly." His father is quiet for a moment. "Please don't overdo it again. I have to train." "But not like that. Not so much that it hurts you." His father cuts him off. His gentle voice is firm. "Absolute." Katsuki looks out the window. There is only one act he can stop to ensure he does not suffer injuries so severe again. His heart thuds heavy in his chest, his hands pulsing to the beat. He thinks about the black hoodie and face mask hanging together deep in his closet. The drunk woman who reminded him he is a hero first and a fractured man last. The McMite employee he protected from being stabbed. The man who accidentally pissed off someone thrice his size. The scared young man taken in by the store owner he tried to rob. The woman who sacrificed her mobility at the hands of a corrupt lunatic. He swallows against a dry throat. He does not want to. He is worried about who he will revert to if he does. "Fine." His father smiles lightly, placing a hand on his shoulder as he rises from the bed. "Thank you, Kats. How about I make you something to eat, and we can spend the rest of the day relaxing at home? How does that sound?" "Sounds great, Dad." Katsuki barely makes it to class on time. He blames his parents who suddenly want to sit down and eat breakfast together. They are really pushing this bonding time. Katsuki rolls his eyes. It will not last, not with their busy schedules. He just needs to bide his time. He also blames the annoying press-forming hordes outside of the school gates, trying to get a peek at All Might in action. They tried to stop him and ask him questions about All Might as a teacher, until they realized he was the victim from the sludge villain incident and tried to pester him with questions about that as well. They are lucky he and his big mouth could slip away so easily. Fucking extras. The second he steps through the classroom entrance, Midoriya shoots up from his seat. "Kaken, you're okay?" Why would he not be? His eyebrows knit together in confusion as the whole class turns to stare curiously at him. Then it hits him. This little shit watched him fold like a lawn chair in the nurse's office 2 days ago. "Wait, what happened? What are you talking about, Deku?" Uraraka asks, currently sitting in his assigned seat. Midoriya opens his mouth to speak, but Katsuki sends him a withering look. He clamps his mouth shut. Katsuki huffs and strides to his seat, placing his bag on his desk and narrowing his eyes at the two of them before turning to the whole class. You see this, he starts, gesturing to Midoriya and Uraraka. Making friends is such a wonderful act. Practically priceless. You know what else is priceless? Minding your own damn business. He cuts his eyes to Uraraka. She springs from his chair and scurries back to hers. Not long after he sits down, Aizawa walks through the classroom door. Hope you're rested from yesterday's battle trial, he starts. Katsuki raises an eyebrow. He is rested, but not for the same reasons. He must have missed their first heroics exercise yesterday. I took the liberty of looking at your marks and evaluations, which I'll pass back now. Aizawa pauses at Katsuki's desk. Bakugou, see me in the teacher's lounge during lunch. He does not wait for an answer before turning to Midoriya. Midoriya, I've already said this. Don't make me say it a third time. If you keep going, I can't adjust my quirk, so I have no choice, then you won't get far. Once you've cleared this hurdle, you'll be much more versatile. But you have to work for it? Yes, sir. Okay, so he missed something important yesterday while he was watching horror movies with his father. Big enough that Midoriya could not control his quirk. Yet again. After Aizawa finishes his comments, he returns to the front of the class. Now that the evaluations are complete, let's move on to the homeroom notices. Sorry to spring this on you. He shuffles some papers on the podium. But we need to pick a class president. Oh, God, I thought it was a pop quiz. Katsuki hears Kaminari whisper. Katsuki sits across the table from Aizawa, Hound Dog, and Recovery Girl in the teacher's lounge. It seems the rest of the teachers have lunch or teaching duties. He was not sure what this meeting was about and why he needs to meet with Aizawa, with all three teachers and staff, but the more he sits quietly in his chair as they settle in theirs, the more suspicious he becomes. He looks between the three of them. His homeroom teacher, the lifestyle guidance counselor, the nurse. He blinks owlishly. Oh fuck no. They have to be kidding. He holds up his hand. Before you even think about it, no, I am not self-harming. No, I am not being abused at home. And no, I am not a part of some delinquent group. I face-planted a tree, he says bitterly, glaring at each of them. He stands. If those are your main concerns, I think this meeting is over. Bakugou, sit down, Aizawa sighs, rubbing his dry eyes. He sits, crossing his arms. Sweetie, you had 3 broken ribs, a broken hand, intense bruising across your body, and a deep gash on your forehead that looked self-stitched, Recovery Girl lists. She looks at him with disbelieving eyes. That's not a question. She wants to hit him with her cane, he can tell. All from a tree? Katsuki shrugs. Those branches could fight. Hound Dog tries to cover his laugh with a cough. Be serious, kid, Aizawa warns. Yes. They stare at each other, unmoving, letting the clock on the wall tick by. Of course, they are not going to budge. Katsuki claps his hands together and exhales. Look, I appreciate the concern. It was my first day, and I looked like a court case. He pauses to reel in the snark in his voice. I'm being serious. It was a personal training accident. I already received a tongue lashing from my old man, which is why I took yesterday off from school. To rest. Your concern is misplaced. This will be the first and last time he goes to Recovery Girl to heal him from vigilante-related activities, which he is not continuing per his father's concern. Aizawa relents after a moment. Don't make a habit of too much personal training. You have bags under your eyes. Katsuki presses his lips into a line to physically stop himself from retorting with, paper or plastic? If he wants this meeting to end, he needs to keep it together. Cut the shit already. But it is so difficult to take this situation seriously. As if sensing the sarcastic comment on the tip of his tongue, his teacher narrows his eyes. Don't train at the expense of your health. I know. The school sirens blare through the loudspeakers. Katsuki jumps into a defensive position immediately. What's happening? Security level 3 has been breached. Students, please promptly evacuate. Aizawa runs toward the door. Someone's infiltrated the school grounds. Bakugou, with me. I'm getting you out of here first. Katsuki nods curtly, shoving the ugly feelings of frustration from being treated like a mere civilian down his throat. and follows his teacher out of the school. To see hordes of news reporters mulling about, searching for All Might. When he hears Aizawa sigh loudly, he feels sorry for the man. He has to deal with the mess they made. But how did the press breach the school's security system? Katsuki crouches on the ledge of a rooftop, fixing his face mask under a blanket of darkness. He does not need to stop. He needs to be more careful. That is all. Herod. H/Uncanny Vigilante. U/Pandamanda 5H. Not my proudest moment, but who wouldn't do what I did? I saw Ground Zero jumping across buildings and I screamed. It was the first time I ever saw him. And I may have been a little drunk, but details. Follow his activity in this subreddit and on Chirper and Zoe's hero blog. I mean, Muzudafa finally got an interesting vigilante. Obviously, I'm going to follow him. I should have taken a picture. He really needs a different outfit though. Something with more pizzazz. Well, I guess he is trying to blend in so no one catches him. I'll let it slide. For now, anyone want to brainstorm outfit designs for him? Also, I don't think he knows we named him or that the army exists. It was funny, he tripped when I tried to get his attention, sorry GZ, and he was looking around like so confused Anyways, as a consolation prize for acting like an idiot in front of our vigilante, get your Ground Zero pins here, URL link. 119k upvotes, 111 comments. Best comments? Harry Sherrylegs 5H. Is it a requirement to be drunk to spot our vigilante or something? 57k upvotes, 47 replies. Newest comments? Bomb Squad 555 3H. I don't get why you're all going crazy over this guy. He's just some quirkless hero wannabe. All Might would instantly body him in a fight. One actually capable villain, and he's just a statistic. Said really. 1.1k upvotes, 345 replies. Best replies. DBS 3H. I'm sure he could body you, so does it matter? Hashtag GroundZeroArmy. 45k upvotes, 18 replies. GroundZerosphus Mask 1H. Oh no, the girls are fighting. Katsuki sits cross-legged on his bed, his hands clasped together in his lap. The lights are off. He has yet to remove his vigilante outfit, the black face mask still covering half of his face, his hood still pulled over his head. His phone is face down on his bed. And he stares at the offending device, biting the inside of his lip. This vigilante act may have been a mistake. Somehow, he has acquired an internet following. People post his endeavors on this app called Reddit, less so on other hero blogs and social media. How did he obtain a fanbase? Why did he obtain a fanbase? He is not a pro hero in this context. He runs around in a face mask and beats up small-time villains. Surely he is not worth keeping tabs on. He has merchandise. And his army named him. He is sort of mad. It is a catchy name. The sound of a dying animal warbles from his throat as he rubs his palms into his eyes. The more eyes on his actions, the worse the consequences will be if he is ever caught. He should lay low for a while. Let this unnecessary popularity die and actually listen to his father's pleas for now. And stop flipping across buildings near shopping centers. Not his proudest moment. Katsuki did not expect to have a new field exercise a few days after the one he missed. For foundational heroic studies today, we'll study the trial of rescue. Whether it's a flood or any other natural disaster, every hero needs to be prepared to rescue civilians, Aizawa explains. You can wear your hero costumes, but note, some of your costumes aren't adapted to the task at hand. His warning does not stop every student from grabbing their numbered suitcase. Katsuki grabs number 17 and heads for the furthest locker room from the classroom. This is the first time he is wearing his hero uniform in this body. He pulls on the sleeveless black top with the large orange cross painted over his chest. The gray shoulder supports. The baggy black pants and green utility belt. The black and orange combat boots with the blunt force-inducing silver kneecaps. The green and orange sweat-building gloves. He hangs his black eye mask around his neck. He leaves his large grenade gauntlets in the suitcase. If it is a rescue mission, he will need full mobility of his arms. They are better equipped for large-scale battles, really, and he fights more close-ranged than long-ranged when he can help it. Plus, he still has the smaller grenades locked and loaded on his utility belt. He observes his uniform in the mirror on the wall. The design is clunkier than his improved uniform in the future, but it gets the job done. And for a moment, he forgets that he is the body moving in the mirror. He clicks his tongue and walks away. He can only stomach staring at his younger self for so long. He has gotten past the disappointment of how far his progress reverted. But the more familiar he becomes with this version of himself, the harder it is to recall what he should be. He shoves his hands into his pants pockets as he walks towards the school bus. A couple of his classmates are boarding, and some are simply hanging outside of the bus. Katsuki's lips quirk upwards against his will. Don't you dare, he thinks. He looks to his right to avoid the fashion disasters in his line of sight and sees Midoriya chatting with Uraraka. An ugly snort burns his nose, and he smacks a hand over his mouth. He looks to his left. Oh no, it is worse on the left. He is on a one-way train to hell for laughing at these kids' costumes. But some may argue he is already there. Because he has the Terminator on ice to his left and the rejected Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic to his right. Katsuki speedwalks to the bus and picks the first two-seater he sees. He promptly buries his head between his knees. Who approved these hero costumes? He is not mad. He just wants to chat. He sucks in a deep breath to control the shake of his shoulders. He will develop breathing problems at this rate. Jairu sits down next to him, scrolling through her music on her phone. Her eyes flicker in his direction, and she raises an eyebrow. Are you okay? Katsuki clears his throat. Peachy. He flicks away the tears forming in his eyes, propping his elbow on the armrest and his chin in the palm of his hand. He hides his quivering mouth with his palm. Some of these costume choices are interesting. That's all, he says. She snickers, trying to stop the smile tugging at her lips by biting them. Yeah, I guess this is the first time you're seeing them, huh? She notes. He nods and leans his boot on the railing in front of him. Jairu goes back to scrolling through her music. A comfortable silence settles between them. The bus finally fills up and departs. He ignores the floating chatter among his classmates, staring out the window and watching the scenery blur past. If we're talking flashy and strong quirks, you have to mention Todoroki and Bakugou, Kirishima exclaims, belatedly grabbing Katsuki's attention from the window. Why are they mentioning his name? He is pretty sure they have not seen him in action yet. Wait, no, they saw him use his quirk during the quirk appraisal tests Aizawa administered. Azui shrugs. Bakugou is too grouchy and intense, so he won't be a popular hero. Jairu snickers next to him. Traitor, Katsuki whispers sharply at her, and she cackles into her covered mouth, turning her head away. He turns to the rest of the class. You don't know shit, Frogger, he retorts. He is plenty popular in the future, or he would not be in the top 3. Though, it is probably because he works with Izuku so much, and he is Japan's sweetheart. But these kids do not need to know that. On the other hand, he assumes the symbol of victory bullshit the press and the genius office push onto the public helps too. But then, Kaminari opens his mouth with a shit-eating grin. It's only been a brief while since our socialization has commenced, and yet already, we've been made apodictically cognizant of your personality, redolent as it is of a turd getting steamed in a sewer. He speaks every big word he knows into one uppity sentence with dramatic hand gestures. Did this brat call his personality a steam turd? That is all he could parse from that nonsense. He can almost hear Kami, his personal hype man, instigating from his mind and whispering, "Are you going to let them talk to you like that? Shut up, non-existent Kami." He is a fucking adult. Unfortunately, it seems his mouth did not receive the same message as his brain. Channeling the energy of too many Saturday night drinking marathons of Kami's favorite vintage American show, Katsuki spews the speech she bet he could not memorize. I will not be badmouthed by some ineffectual, privileged, effete, soft-penised debutante. You want to start a street fight with me, bring it on, but you're going to be surprised by how ugly it gets, he says, pointing an accusing finger at the boy. You don't even know my real name. I'm the fucking Lizard King. Kaminari gawks. Heat licks at Katsuki's face as silence drags. Was that too much? Leave it to Kami to suck Katsuki into her whims when she is not even present. God, he wants to laugh, not at the absurdity of the televised rant, but at the loneliness and homesickness expanding in his chest. She would be proudly dying of secondhand embarrassment on the floor. Sort of like Jairu, who is trembling in her chair at the moment. Oh my God, Bakugou. The bus erupts into laughter. Dude, where's that even from? Kaken jokes? What a vulgar conversation. But they make me laugh. Bet you were waiting to use that one. Quiet down, Aizawa orders, shutting down the noisy chatter. We're almost there. All Might is late. Aizawa and number 13 whisper to each other before addressing the class. Welcome, students. Number 13 exclaims. I am Space Hero number 13, and it is a pleasure to meet you all. We will utilize this practical training arena to stimulate all kinds of accidents and disasters. Katsuki, like his classmates, looks around the giant facility from the entrance. He whistles. Sometimes he forgets just how much money Yui makes. Peering down the long staircase, Katsuki marvels at the several meticulously constructed areas, spanning out from a central water fountain viewing space. There is a large ocean with falling rocks, a severe whirlpool, and a giant waterfall. A mountain area with rickety rope bridges, jagged rocks, and hidden caves. A simulated avalanche tumbling down a snowy peak, complete with half-submerged buildings and foliage. An entire city doused in flames. Another city suffering a severe landslide. It keeps going. However, before we begin, I need to make a few things clear. As you know, my quirk, Black Hole, sucks any material into a vortex and turns it into dust. Midoriya, who is visibly vibrating along with Uraraka, suddenly speaks up. Yes. And your quirk is perfect for removing wreckage and saving people injured by disasters. Number 13 nods. Yes, it is. However, it is also a power that could easily kill others. And in that way, it is no different from the quirks of everyone here. Katsuki glances at his fellow classmates, noting their stiff and uneasy expressions at the mention of death. Their fidgeting and shifting bodies. He swallows, his face the perfect mask of disinterest. He has killed before. He remembers the events like filed-away briefings in his mind, but he can clearly picture the aftermaths. How he stood in front of crying family members or widowed partners who yelled and beat their fists into his chest, unable to come to terms with reality. Watched as the last breath exited a prone villain he was unable to subdue. Carried a lifeless victim into the eyes of the public as their blood crawled down his tainted hands. He wonders how his classmates, how these untouched heroes in training, would react if they knew. If they knew of the times he failed his duty. Of the times he could not save someone who needed him. Of the times he took a life for the greater good. Of the gray that bleeds into the judgment of heroes. Number 13's voice grounds him. In this society of superhumans, quirks are strictly regulated, and their laws are strictly enforced. That being said, please don't forget that each of you possess a quirk that can go awry. One wrong step is all it takes to kill another accidentally. During Mr. Aizawa's physical strength test, you learned of your respective powers' true potential. During All Might's trial of battle, you took away a true sense of the danger of brandishing those powers against one another. Number 13 claps her hands together, the bulky spacesuit creaking a bit as she tries to brighten the mood. This lesson will serve as a fresh start. Let's study how to wield our quirks for the sake of human life. I would like you to leave this exercise having fully understood that your quirks exist to help people. With those last words, Katsuki can almost feel the relief seeping from the teenagers around him. I know that was a lot of information, but thank you for listening so intently and patiently, she finishes, bowing deeply. Ida claps animatedly. Of course. This was a valuable lesson indeed. All right, Aizawa starts, grabbing everyone's attention. The first thing we will. A blob of black crackles from beyond the staircase and near the large water fountain below. It swirls, dissipating near its ragged edges. It grows. Katsuki squints, his eyebrows knitting together at the almost mesmerizing whirl. The cracked steel box reveals itself in his mind once again, looming ominously from the outer reaches of his thoughts. Its presence is an imposing pressure behind his eyes, threatening the blackness to move any further. Suddenly, the black entity, almost like a mist, expands, seemingly hollow. A pale hand grabs the edge of the mist. And as it grows even further, a face shielded by a detached, petrified hand and pale blue hair emerges. Katsuki stops breathing. He stops hearing. Aizawa's frantic voice mutes, and the static of a neglected television buzzes in his mind. Cold electricity thrums under his skin. His fingers, his toes, feel bloated as if creating a barrier to the outside world. The cracked steel box snaps open, the latch on his memories shattering, and a flood of nightmares he left behind drown his consciousness. Kaken! Deku shouts, distraught. One of his eyes is swelled shut, the other wide and trained on his released form. Mr. Compress freed Katsuki from the confines of the marble only to be imprisoned again. Deku's arms are broken beyond repair and unable to reach out. It is too late. The darkness creeps around Katsuki's body as Dabi's hand grips the back of his neck, fingernails digging into his skin. The dust clears around the rubble and razed buildings. With a single fist in the air, All Might reigns victorious. But to save one boy, the world loses their symbol of peace. He points at the news camera, and with 2 words, he pushes the weight of the world onto another boy's shoulders. You're next. Rage swallows Deku's eyes as he yells a war cry, swinging punch after punch, lashing out black whip after whip at Shigaraki. Jade lightning haphazardly shoots from his body, daring any of the landbound heroes to get in between. But there is an opening, a noticeable hole in his assault. And at that moment, there are no thoughts in Katsuki's mind as he rushes towards Deku. And he pushes him out of the way. Dark tendrils zip from Shigaraki's fingertips and stab through his body. Katsuki kneels on the broken concrete, wordlessly watching the last threads of peace spill their blood onto the wreckage. As quickly as the memories engulf every inch of Katsuki's body and mind, they shove back into the box, the fixed latch snapping shut. The multiple cracks on its surface remain. He barely feels his eyelids close and open before his vision turns black. Katsuki's eyes flutter as if trying to break the blur in front of his vision. His mind is swirling in fading static as the surrounding noises grow. His skin feels almost too tight now, as if trying to stretch itself as thin as possible. Everything is suddenly louder, brighter, present. Sharp pain strikes from behind his eyes, and he scrunches them in retaliation. A wave of nausea fills the space the static left in his brain, and he digs his fingernails into the palms of his hands, riding out the waves. Liquid burns his throat, and red spills over his lips, dribbling from his chin. He wheezes. His body shudders as he tries to breathe through the invading, stabbing pain and the blood bubbling in his throat. His ribs. Something is wrong with his ribs. How is something wrong with his ribs? Adrenaline he did not notice numbing his body fades as pain crackles through Katsuki's torso. Every breath is difficult. Something must be punctured. He sways in sync with a rush of dizziness, signaling he is standing upright. Katsuki's arms hang loosely in front of his hunched torso. Droplets of red splatter on something below him. Someone. He looms over a dead Num. Don't fucking touch him. The red slashes on his massive dark body look dull. His shrunken black pupils focus on nothing, eyes petrified wide. Blood and boiled bits of tissue pool around the exploded, exposed brain of the dead Numu. Well, it is not the first time he came to his senses next to something dead. Shit, that's not fair, you cheater, someone shouts. The person's voice is like a strike of cold water, a series of warning bells. Tamura Shigaraki. But the bells ring too late. His body is already jittery. His pulse already threatened to jump out of his skin. The surprise of Shigaraki's appearance. Katsuki already experienced it, still experiences it as the aftereffects of his panic shake his body. Instead, he is left feeling bemused over the redundancy. Questions prod Katsuki's brain, but none of them manage to stick. Shigaraki curses, whipping his head towards his not-dead Numu. Kurogyri. Get the hell up already and remove him. As you wish, sir. Katsuki hears Kurogyri's strained voice behind him. The villain sounds injured. Katsuki barely manages to turn around before he is swallowed by a sea of darkness. And then he is falling into an actual sea. No, It is the man-made sea in the practical training arena. His body thrashes in the air as he falls against his will. There is no way he can swim. Every movement feels like daggers to his ribs, to his lungs. Every breath scorches and corrodes. He plummets into the ocean. Salty water quickly invades his nose and mouth. He tries to swim, but his body is too heavy. His limbs are like concrete slabs, pulling him closer to the fake ocean floor. A tongue wraps around his waist and pulls him to the surface. He sucks in air against the protesting knives in his chest and pooling blood in his mouth as hands keep him afloat in the water. "Are you okay, Bakugou?" Azui says, concern seeping through her words. He is not sure if she expects an answer, but he does not give one, letting heavy breaths fall between them. Her eyebrows furrow as she takes in his shivering figure, heavily relying on her support. "Hold on, I'm getting you back to shore." "No." He nearly hacks up a lung, "Villains need to run." "All Might is here," Azui cuts in. All Might arrived, and the villains fled. Katsuki's hands cover Numu's exposed brain, and he detonates his palms as fast as he can muster. Blood splatters his face. Something crashes in the distance, as the exposed organ boils and bursts under the heat of his quirk. The blurry vision sends lightning through his mind, and he grits his teeth. All Might is here. Of course he is. He was always supposed to be here. But the question prodding Katsuki's mind persists. Did All Might see him kill the Numu? With Azui helping him, his other classmates must be close by. Did they all witness Katsuki take a life, no matter how wretched and vacant it may be? As Azui drags him to shore, she throws his arm around her shoulder and supports most of his weight. They watch All Might cradle Midoriya's mangled body in his arms. They watch newly arriving teachers help an unconscious Aizawa onto a gurney while others round up scattered students and defeated villains. They watch the police converse with the school principal, Nedzu, as he sits on Vlad King's shoulder. And Katsuki is hit with another set of prodding questions. The words never manage to reach his mouth. All Might notices their stumbling trek towards the mass of people. "Oh, thank you, young Azui, for saving young Bakugou." Katsuki glares at the ground until a gurney comes to pick up his pieces. Katsuki's head slips in the palm of his hand, and he jolts, propping himself back up. He is not sure how much longer he can stay awake. Not after Recovery Girl healed his crushed ribcage. Not after his blackout during class. But they would not allow him to fall asleep no matter how many times Recovery Girl requested. Blackout. That is the best way to refer to it, right? He cannot say he is surprised. It has happened before. And little by little, he would remember what happened. Bits would sneak up on him in the most mundane settings. Pieces would startle him during the worst of his battles. Though he has never tried to answer why he blacks out. They have not affected his work. Even when he is not in control, he can carry out his duty uninterrupted and unbothered, or so he slowly recalls. And maybe that is a blessing in disguise. To stand victorious in every state of mind, no matter what the job throws at him. And each returning memory reminds him just how much the job can throw. So, maybe these blackouts are actually... Katsuki's train of thought fades as the urge to slip unconscious presses against his eyelids. He sits cross-legged in a chair, surrounded by several teachers and staff, the school principal, and Detective Tsukachi from the police in the principal's office. Everyone is blurry, but it makes the tense atmosphere more manageable. All Might stands by the wooden desk, but Katsuki refuses to look at him. Nedzu is perched in his giant chair, or maybe the chair is normal and he is just small? Katsuki wearily glosses over the rest of the teachers and staff. Cementos, Hound Dog, Number 13, and Present Mike are in attendance. He supposes Present Mike is standing in for Aizawa. Katsuki closes his eyes. Recovery Girl filled him in on his teacher's whereabouts when she treated him earlier. Aizawa is being transported to an emergency hospital because his injuries were so severe. According to the ramblings of one of his classmates during their treatment, Aizawa protected Katsuki from the Numu's attack. Bakugou, Nedzu starts, folding his paws together. I do apologize for asking you to this impromptu meeting, but it is important we talk. You may not know, but I have been keeping tabs on you since we received your results from the entrance exam. The lag between Nedzu's words and Katsuki's ability to process them causes his eyebrows to rise in belated disbelief. He slides his face into his hands. Katsuki does not have the mental capacity left to process where this impending lecture will go. However, he knows he will be screwed by the end of it. Instead of evacuating like most of his classmates, he took justice into his own hands and ended up hovering over a dead Numu. He does not need the full story to surmise that much. He got his teacher hurt, and he probably indirectly caused Midoriya's broken legs. He will not be surprised if they expel him. Did you know that only one other student in Yui history received a perfect score on the written exam? What makes your case different from hers is that she has a quirk that enhances her mental abilities beyond that of the average human being. Quite similar to me, actually. You then proceeded to obtain the highest score on the practical test. Nedzu stops to accept the steaming mug of tea Cementos brings him, sipping lightly. So, a highly intelligent student with a powerful quirk and impeccable quirk control attends his first day of school with multiple severe injuries from a poorly explained personal training accident. He then proceeds to incapacitate not one, but two incredibly powerful beings of chaos and destruction, Nedzu says. He pauses for another sip. Maybe you can help us understand, Bakugou? He killed both the unnamed Numu and Kurogiri? No, Kurogiri was awake. How else would he have been flung into the sea? Katsuki sighs deeply. His head is too heavy in the palms of his hand to talk himself out of this one. But why is he hiding everything again? Hiding his knowledge of Numus, of Shigaraki, of traitors and death, of the impending war to hit Japan? Of one for all and all for one? Did he have a reason? He does not remember anymore, not with this muddled mind. He just hopes it is worth sticking to this time. Recovery Girl places a hand on his shoulder. This conversation would be more beneficial if held next week, after Bakugou has rested. This child, like the others, has just witnessed a traumatic event. He's also suffered severe damage to his ribcage, which punctured his lungs. Especially after my healing, he needs rest. It's fine, Katsuki says in a clipped voice, his eyes deeply hooded with each owlish blink. Every word is a bit slower than his normal, a bit slurred. But I don't know what you want me to say. If I see an opportunity, I take it. So, I probably did that. I can't tell you if it was the best choice or the worst, but I can tell you none of my classmates or teachers would be alive if that villain were too. As for my previous injuries, I'm 15? 15. I make mistakes. And I'd like to go 5 minutes without that constant reminder. Nedzu hums non-committedly. I'm aware you are imperfect, Bakugou. Though, I was hoping for more of an answer to quell my suspicions and help our friend, Detective Tsukachi. But let's leave that discussion for another day. There is also the matter of your actions today and their impacts. Hound Dog steps forward. We collected multiple student testimonies as well as number 13's testimony. Bakugou, you blatantly ignored your teacher's orders to evacuate and stay back. You also directly engaged multiple dangerous villains on your own. All Might gingerly kneels in front of him, forcing Katsuki to face his favorite hero since childhood. He places a hand on his knee before speaking up. Young Bakugou, your actions were courageous and admirable, and you protected your fellow classmates very well. But you are a hero in training. A student just starting out, not a pro hero. You should not have jumped into the fray like you did and put yourself in such danger. Do you truly realize the reality of what could have happened to you, my boy? With his limited knowledge, he cannot refute what they are saying because they may be right. If you're going to punish me, do it already, Katsuki answers, resigned. I'm sorry, kiddo. Present Mike apologizes, his eyes crinkling at the edges in pity. Katsuki stares blankly at the orange and black controller in his hands, turning it over and taking in its unprompted appearance. He swears he had a controller just like this as a kid. Not to brag, but he was quite the gamer as a kid. X-King Explodo kills 420X knew no defeat. Unfortunately, after his quirk manifested, he prioritized training over one-shotting pixelized enemies while his gaming console collected dust. He looks around. A room of darkness surrounds him. The room is eerily quiet, except for the methodical drip of water in the background, as if it is trying to match the constant thud of a heart echoing off the walls. His heart. He would know its tune better than anyone. Drip, drip, drip. Where the hell is he? Katsuki tries to recall what he was doing earlier, but his thoughts are escaping him. A white screen lights up his face. His eyes follow the black cord snaking from the controller to his old gaming console to a large, blank monitor. "Hey!" someone shouts. A child, by the crack in their voice. "How'd you get in here?" The child steps out of the darkness like walking through a waterfall. And Katsuki feels as if he were sent 10 more years into the past. Standing in front of him is the Kid Katsuki with his balled-up fists and his favorite All-Might-themed pajamas. The ones his father bought him for his 5th birthday with the blonde hairpieces sticking out from the hooded top. Kid Katsuki puffs out his chest. "You're not supposed to be in here," he says. His eyes cut to the controller in Katsuki's hands, and his face twists into something ugly. "That's mine. Give it back." He snatches the controller from Katsuki's hands and accusingly points it in his face. "Mine. Only I can use the controller." "Me. Good God. Was he really like this as a kid?" Katsuki pauses, taking in the overdramatic huffs and flared nostrils. Yes, he was just like this. He grimaces, raising his hands in surrender. "All yours, brat," he says, pensively watching the kid plop onto the hard ground and mess with the gaming system's controls. Is this one of those cases where someone is aware they are in a dream? Because he has to be dreaming. Katsuki touches his hands to his face and hair. He is still physically 15, it seems. How cruel. "What are you doing?" Katsuki finally asks. If he is going to be stuck here, he might as well play along. "Beating my score," Kid Katsuki replies, his eyes glued to the screen. He sets up his default settings to automatically turn on DualShock controller vibrations, sound, and picture. Care to expand on that, or am I supposed to know what you're playing? The kid rolls his eyes. "You are. New content dropped because of your hissy fit, so I got called in. Now, I'm trying to beat my high score." Katsuki's eye twitches. If he were to smack this kid upside his head, technically he would be smacking himself, right? And what the fuck does he mean by his hissy fit? He is about to open his mouth when sound and noise fill the room like a surround sound audio system. Number 13. Protect the students? That is Aizawa's voice. Don't move. Those are villains. Katsuki blinks, and the screen changes to a still photo of the practical training area. Aizawa is pointing and yelling. Some of his classmates are confused. Some huddling together. Some covering their mouths. Number 13 is blurry as she tries to spin around. Suddenly, the screen begins to move, hurrying to catch up to the sound. "Mr. Aizawa, there's too many of them." Midoriya frantically warns on screen. The child bursts out laughing. "Dumb Deka being a scaredy cat's always funny," Kid Katsuki says. "Don't be an ass," Katsuki reprimands immediately. He watches Aizawa pull his goggles over his eyes and unwrap his capture cloth from around his neck. The child sticks out his tongue. "Of course, you sound like the old man. Always barking orders. Do this. Don't do that. It's my game, I'll play how I want." "What? Dad doesn't curse. You should know that." "I'm not talking about that, old man." "Then who?" "A hero always has more than one trick up their sleeves," Aizawa says on screen before he jumps down the long staircase, hurling himself at the horde of villains forming by the water fountain below. He is playing the USJ attack like a video game. Aizawa's iconic saying is one Katsuki remembers. "Fucking weird dream." An orange box pops up on the screen. New quest available. Stop Shigaraki to protect Class 1A. Use the controller to move, fight, and speak. Special moves and attacks are now available. Additional future knowledge is now unlocked. Story modes have been activated. Do we accept this quest? Increment yes times no. The kid clicks the triangle button. He crosses his legs and rests his arms on his knees, hunching his shoulders. Katsuki controls the urge to tell the boy to not slouch like that. He refuses to sound just like Best Jeanist. On the screen, the camera moves in first-person mode, peering out through someone's eyes. It is him, based on the uniform covering the person's moving arms and legs. Drip, drip, drip. Okay, ready? Kid Katsuki mumbles more to himself. He opens Shoyuta Aizawa's character information window, quickly skimming the information before closing it back. He turns his avatar around in a circle and observes the fast-paced scenes playing in front of him. Black mist begins to form at the edge of the staircase, and he forces Katsuki to jump backwards, arms stretched out defensively in front of his classmates and second teacher. Oh shit, is that who I think it is? Katsuki says, leaning forward as well. Duh. Another box pops up on the screen. This one is light blue. New enemy alert. The Black Mist is a B-rank villain called Kurogyri. Kurogyri is a new move created by Dr. Kyudai Garaki to serve and protect Tamura Shigaraki. His quirk is Warp Gate, which... The kid clicks out of the box before Katsuki can finish reading it. He cuts his eye over to the kid, but the kid is too concentrated on the screen to care. Dear student, please stand down, number 13 says on the screen as she steps up next to player Katsuki. Bakugou, hurry up. We need to evacuate, Ida shouts, gesturing for others to start running. Black mist shoots out, crawling around player Katsuki's legs and heading towards the students as an ethereal figure rises. Kurogyri. Greetings. We are the Villain Alliance. I apologize for the presumption, but we took it upon ourselves to enter Yui in order to engage. With Mr. All Might, the symbol of peace. We were wondering if we might be allowed the opportunity to extinguish him, you see, Kurogyri states. His voice is too polite, too professional, to match the depth of his threat. The kid clicks his tongue at the statement, gripping the controller harder. Watching him play something Katsuki lived is weird, but more importantly, it is fucking boring. Was Mr. All Might not meant to attend this juncture? Kurogyri sighs. No matter, my role is also to scatter you children. Katsuki hears the sound of the controller vibrating, and the kid clicks seemingly random buttons. The avatar jumps back immediately as mist begins to envelop his classmates. Ah shoot. I thought I hit it faster this time, Kid Katsuki complains. His fingers are a flurry of taps and swipes as he forces his player to change direction midair and dive off to the side. He rolls to his feet and darts forward, toward the metal neck brace peeking out from behind the attack. He clicks the circle and triangle buttons. Player Katsuki front flips and slams his foot into the only tangible part of the villain. The neck brace crashes to the ground, black mist following closely behind. The avatar grabs it and explodes the metal in the palm of his hand. Kurogyri groans, disoriented, as the black mist waves stiltedly around the neck brace. He turns the camera to look at his classmates. Some are missing, and so is number 13. Hold up. This isn't what happened, Katsuki blurts out. He did not know how to take down Kurogyri, let alone stop him himself. Not the first time around. He also had help. I didn't do that. And where's? Immediately, the screen flips to white and then to an abandoned building. A dozen or so small-time villains surround him and Kirishima, grinning and chuckling as if they have the upper hand. What are you doing? The kid yells at him, flabbergasted. Yes, this is what happened, Katsuki says, nodding at the screen. I don't know what you were doing. I was playing it right. You're messing it up. Stop. With his little hands, the kid pushes Katsuki over. He smacks into the hard ground. What the fuck? Stop messing up my game, the kid shouts, hovering over him. He points at the screen. That's the outdated version. I was playing the updated version. Now I have to fix it. Thanks a lot, dickwit. Katsuki is too stunned to speak. From the interesting insult to the fact that his memory is apparently outdated, he begins to doubt his recollection. No, he's right. That was important. That fight with Kirishima was too important for their friendship to be imaginary. So, what the fuck is this brat playing? As Kid Katsuki skips back to the previous screen, Katsuki studies it harder. In this version, Kirishima does not attack Kurogyri alongside him. In this version, less of his classmates get transported across the practical training area. Only 8 students are missing: Jairu, Kaminari, Yaoyorozu, Hagakure, Todoroki, Azui, Mineta, And Midoriya. Of course, Midoriya is missing. He stops Kurogiri. He stops him. Does he? Katsuki rubs his palms into his eyes, trying to remember. He knows he was transported into an abandoned building with Kirishima. He knows this. And yet, stopping Kurogiri does not feel entirely fake. A light green box pops up on the screen. We have entered story mode. Choose an option. Increment dialogue 1 times dialogue 2. The kid clicks the triangle button, still grumbling about Katsuki messing with the screen. Katsuki is not even sure how he changed the screen. Player Katsuki turns to his classmates, adding pressure to the neck brace in case Kurogiri tries anything. All of you, get the hell out of here. Call the teachers. Hearing his own voice is jarring in the least, but the monotone nature of it is creepy. Katsuki sounds void of any emotion. The camera shifts specifically to Ida. Ida, you're the fastest. Go now. Do not engage these villains if you can help it. The avatar stands, dragging the metal piece to the edge of the staircase. What? Bakugou, where are you going? Kirishima asks from somewhere off the screen. The source. Then, I'm coming with you, he declares, and heavy footsteps fill the room. Player Katsuki shoots out his hand in warning. Oh, he's not someone you mess with. Do what I said and get the teachers. Kirishima does not budge. I'm not letting you go down there by yourself. The camera turns fast and lands on Kirishima's concerned expression. And the avatar almost sounds angry. Almost. You don't get to make that choice. Before Kirishima can open his mouth, player Katsuki grips the metal piece in one hand and catapults himself into the air with his other, explosions racking the air. The controller vibrates as player Katsuki lurches upward, flying over Aizawa as he subdues the horde of villains. He contorts himself, explosions accelerating the spin of his body until he is but a blurry tornado. Black mist fuses with the amassing cyclone, a menacing mixture of shadow and light. And it hurls into the concrete like an asteroid to Earth. Howitzer impact. Kurogiri's scream cuts off as he smashes into the surface, concrete cracking severely under the force of the attack, dust and smoke billowing into the space around them. The mist huddles together, forming an intangible, motionless body around the damaged neck brace. Player Katsuki pushes through the remnants of the explosion, stalking out like a demon from hell. The camera is trained on Shigaraki's hunched figure. Fury fills the eye peeking between the petrified fingers that obscure his face. You hurt my getaway car, Shigaraki whines, roughly scratching at the dry skin on his neck. You use cheats. Fuck you. I don't cheat, the kid shouts, startling Katsuki. He forgot the kid was there. He was too absorbed by the screen. Aren't you 5? You shouldn't curse, he says. I'm 7, chicken dick, the kid corrects. You did. I'm grown. I can do as I please. Mom'll scold you. She can try. She will. Katsuki relents. A light green box pops up on the screen. Choose an option. Increment dialogue 1, easy, times dialogue 2, hard. The kid grins and clicks the X button. Bakugou. He hears Aizawa yell off screen. What are you doing? Get back. Instead, the camera moves towards Shigaraki. Hands gesture around as the avatar slowly strolls towards Shigaraki. You came to take out the symbol of peace, but you can't even stop one kid. The words are playful, but the voice speaking them into existence is detached. Cold. You don't know what you're talking about, brat. Are you sure, Tamura Shigaraki? Player Katsuki asks. He stops in front of the young man. Send my regards to your teacher. He and I have some catching up to do. Katsuki slaps a hand to his mouth. It is jarring again. The words, the scene, they are wrong. This is not what happened over a decade ago. But these new words do not feel wrong. Here, he openly taunted Shigaraki. He spoke with him as if it were not the first time. When did he do this? Shigaraki looks rigid. Confusion and anger swirl in his eye as he steps back cautiously. How do you know my name? How the fuck do you know my teacher? Who are you? The avatar is quiet for a moment, almost as if he were buffering. I'm just a guy looking to kill time. Shigaraki glares daggers at the camera, ire clear as day. You will tell me what you're hiding or die by my hand. The avatar drops into a defensive stance, his hands curling upward on the screen and his knees bending. "I'd like to see you try, bitch." A light green box pops up on the screen. We have exited story mode. Experience gained. Howitzer impact +1. Player rank +1. Choose an option. Increment fight Shigaraki times reason with Shigaraki. "What do you think?" the kid says suddenly. Is he asking Katsuki? Of course he is. No one else is here. Katsuki crosses his arms, an amused smirk on his face. How does All Might talk again? He clears his throat. "Beat his ass, young Bakugou." The childish cackle makes him feel a little better about this weird-ass dream. He cannot say he expected to watch himself play a video game starring himself. The kid clicks the triangle button. "Oh crap!" Kid Katsuki exclaims, shifting the left joystick and pressing a couple of buttons. The avatar dodges to the side as Shigaraki reaches for his neck. A warning message pops up on the screen. New enemy alert. Tamura Shigaraki, or Tenko Shimura, is the one fated to fight Izuku Midoriya. His current quirk is Decay. This emitter-type quirk allows him to destroy anything his hands touch. Again, the kid clicks out of the message faster than Katsuki can read, but as the scene plays, he is not as put off. Player Katsuki dodge rolls away from another deadly grab. A foot slams into Katsuki's stomach, and he lurches back. The controller vibrates. "I said, beat his ass, right? Shut up. No backseat driving." Player Katsuki crouches from the ground, waiting as Shigaraki sprints towards him and reaches for his face. The kid clicks away on the controller. The avatar slips out of the way and grabs Shigaraki's extended arm, promptly throwing him over his shoulder. Shigaraki smacks the ground on his back, his arm tightly secured in Avatar's hands. The kid clicks a button. Player Katsuki scorches Shigaraki's arm. "Fuck." The young man scrunches his eyes closed and kicks out violently, forcing the avatar to jump back. The villain glares at the screen, a grumble in his voice as he growls, "That was the last straw, you imp." He staggers to his feet, cradling his sizzling arm. "Numa! Kill him!" The dripping water in the dark room suddenly sounds rushed. Accelerated. Drip drip. Drip drip. Drip drip. A red message pops up on the screen. New enemy alert. A Numu, also referred to as an artificial human, is a deceased individual whose body has been heavily modified by Dr. Kyudai Garaki. The kid immediately clicks out of the message. "Why'd you do that? It was red. I already know what it says. Crazy dangerous. Run." Player Katsuki hightails it to the large staircase. But something massive invades his peripheral vision. Blood-red slashes pepper the dark hand reaching for Katsuki. The Numu's exposed brain pulses, shrunken black pupils zeroing in on him. "Kaken!" The screen goes white again. The kid screams. But Katsuki does not notice. Because the desperation seeping from that call invades his body. Crawls up his spine and infects his mind. "Kaken!" Deku shouts, distraught. One of his eyes is swelled shut, the other wide and trained on his released form. Mr. Compress freed Katsuki from the confines of the marble only to be imprisoned again. Deku's arms are broken beyond repair and unable to reach out. It is too late. The darkness creeps around Katsuki's body as Dabi's hand grips the back of his neck, fingernails digging into his skin. His body lurches back and forth as tiny hands shake the ever-loving fuck out him. "Wake up, wake up, wake up," the kid says repeatedly. Stop, Katsuki stutters, barely holding on to his ability to speak. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Throwing a hissy fit and messing up my game," the kid states as if it is the most obvious fact. "Why are you opening that again? The old man already put that back." "I was," Katsuki starts to say and reaches his hand to touch the back of his neck. "I don't know what I was doing." "I told you." "You are messing up my game," the kid repeats. "I'll kick you out if you do it again." "You'll kick me out of my own dream?" The kid's head twitches to the side, his eyes narrow a bit. "What makes you think this is a dream?" "What? What?" the kid mimics rudely. "Are you dumb?" "Watch your mouth," Katsuki warns, but the threat has no teeth. Not with how lost he feels. Kid Katsuki returns to the game, chewing on his bottom lip and mocking him under his breath. Again, the screen rewinds from coarse fingernails and dragging darkness to modified humans and frantic calls. Kaken. Behind you. Capture cloth wraps around player Katsuki's torso and yanks. The camera lurches to the side, haphazardly spinning as the avatar rolls on the ground. His body halts, but the camera continues to swirl moments longer. When the controller stops shaking, the kid moves the joystick for player Katsuki to take in his surroundings. The camera darts around the area. Just where did the Numa go? Katsuki's breath catches. The Numa hovers over Aizawa's disfigured body. His arms snapped in half. His face smashed into the concrete. A broken ragdoll between the teeth of a vicious dog. Recovery girl said Aizawa had to be rushed to the emergency hospital. She said it was serious. Katsuki recalls being carried into her office on a gurney. Being healed by her quirk and quickly ushered into the principal's office for questioning. This is real. This game, these scenes, they happened. Katsuki looks down at his hands. Is he dreaming? Or is he remembering? Before the kid can even move his avatar, green zips across the screen. Stop it! Midoriya roars as he jumps from the ocean shore to the villain in the blink of an eye, his legs flailing useless and broken behind him. His fist winds back dangerously as emerald lightning dances along his arm. Smash! He lands a resounding punch on the Numu's chest. It does not budge. Shock absorption. This Numu has a shock absorption quirk that only All Might can overpower. The dripping water beating into the ground of this room picks up again. Drip drip drip. Drip drip drip. Drip drip drip. Katsuki watches himself sprint towards the Numu, using his explosions to propel him faster. The villain stares vacantly at Midoriya's crippled body on the ground, its beak-like mouth slightly agape in an almost smile. The Numu reaches for the boy. Don't fucking touch him. Katsuki can almost feel himself shout. Katsuki jumps on the Numu's back, legs tightly clutching its sides. The villain instantly changes its reach, snatching Katsuki's body and crushing his ribcage between heavy fingers. Crunch. But it does not rip him off. Not fast enough. Katsuki's hands cover the Numu's exposed brain, and he detonates his palms as fast as he can muster. Blood splatters his face, and something crashes in the distance, as the exposed organ boils and bursts under the heat of his quirk. The Numa jolts once, its body standing rigid for a mere moment. The hand squeezing Katsuki's torso slips away. The villain staggers over Aizawa's twisted body and Midoriya's wide eyes, before dropping to its knees, and then to its face. In the dark room, Katsuki touches his ribs, expecting to feel the onslaught of pain. Instead, he feels numb. Who are you? He asks the kid, staring at his hands. Seriously, are you dumb? Just fucking answer the question. Take a good look at me. I know who you look like. That's not what I'm asking, Katsuki shouts, ripping his eyes from his healed torso to the kid, only to find a faceless child staring back at him. Katsuki jerks back as if he were stabbed. And when he looks back up, Katsuki watches rage swallow Deku's eyes as he yells a war cry, swinging punch after punch, lashing out black. Whip after whip at Shigaraki. Jade lightning haphazardly shoots from his body, daring any of the landbound heroes to get in between. But there is an opening, a noticeable hole in his assault. And at that moment, there are no thoughts in Katsuki's mind as he rushes towards Deku. And he pushes him out of the way. Dark tendrils zip from Shigaraki's fingertips and stab through his body, blending into his skin and drowning him in darkness. The light of the screen and the faceless kid are obscured from his field of view as the merc crawls. I told you to stop opening that box. Katsuki pries his eyes open against their will, letting them clamp shut as a train of exhaustion racks through his body. So, he was asleep. Of course. Faceless children do not exist. He was dreaming. He presses a hand to his chest, feeling the rapid beats of his heart punch his sweaty hand. The scenes he witnessed on that stupid screen felt real. They felt fresh like new memories being fed to him. The memories he is supposed to remember slowly. He has never dreamed them back all at once. That is not how these blackouts work. That is not how they used to work. And of course, his younger self refused to give him any tangible answers as to what the hell was going on. But it was a dream. Dreams do not require explanation. And he should not expect one. Katsuki waits for his heart to calm before trying to fall asleep again. But the sunlight streaming through his window lets him know he failed. Katsuki's events notebook. Sludge villain incident. Added. Deku gets OFA. Yui entrance exams. Added. Waste of time. Graduated middle school. Added. Shigaraki attacks the class. Did I win the sports festival my first year? Added. Doesn't matter anymore. Kidnapped by League of Extras. Added. Necessary. The war for all ends. Added. I need to destroy it. Graduated high school. Future Heroes Fellowship in India and China. Returned to Japan.